The NVUSD Board of Education is holding a regular board meeting tonight, and we invite participation either remotely or in person. Directions on how to participate via Zoom are available at nvusd.org/board. The open session part of the meeting will begin at around 7 p.m. Before going into closed session, the board is available for public comment on closed session agenda items. Mr. Michaels, do we have any public comment on closed session agenda items?
There is no public comment on closed session items.
Seeing that there are none, the board will now adjourn into closed session. See you at 7-ish. Good evening. My name is Cindy Water, and this is the Napa Valley Unified School District Board of Education. The NVUSD Board of Education is holding a regular board meeting tonight, and we invite participation either remotely or in person. Directions on how to participate via Zoom are available at nvusd.org/board. Interpretation in Spanish is available for tonight's virtual board meeting. Our interpretations are Francisco, Meza, and Losha Soriano. One of the interpreters will now translate the directions on our English channel so our Spanish-speaking families may hear the instructions.
Sí, buenas noches a todos. La interpretación en español está disponible para la reunión virtual. Para acceder a la interpretación desde un computador, por favor haga clic en el icono de interpretación en la parte inferior de su pantalla desde la aplicación Zoom. En un dispositivo móvil, haga clic en el botón More o Más y bajo interpretación de idioma, elija español. Este es un canal separado que les permitirá escuchar la traducción del inglés al español simultáneamente. Gracias. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mesa. Can we please start with an attendance roll call from Vera Morales, Executive Assistant?
Yes. Student Board Member Graydon?
Present.
Trustee Water?
Present.
Trustee Reiser?
Present.
Trustee Shu?
Present.
Trustee Gracia?
Present.
Trustee Hart?
Present.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares?
Present.
Quorum present. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us tonight for our NVUSD board meeting. Okay, E1 is report on closed session. Trustee Chu, do you have a report on closed session agenda items?
I do. Item D1, student discipline. With respect to every item of business to be discussed in closed session pursuant to Ed Code 35146 and 48912:20, Government Code Section 49060 and 49078, and the Family Rights and Privacy Act, USC Section 1232G, Student Matters. A, expulsions. The board recommends for the expulsion of student 12122-024A.
Move to expel.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Trustee Gracia and a second by Trustee Hart, and we need a roll call vote.
Trustee Water?
Aye.
Trustee Reiser?
Aye.
Trustee Shu?
Aye.
Trustee Gracia?
Aye.
Trustee Hart?
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And number 2, the board recommends for the expulsion of student 12122-024B.
Move to expel.
Second.
We have a motion from Trustee Gracia, a second by Trustee Hart, and we need a roll call vote.
Trustee Water?
Aye.
Trustee Reiser?
Aye.
Trustee Shu?
Aye.
Trustee Gracia?
Aye.
Trustee Hart?
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item D2B, personnel. In closed session, the board took action to release a temporary certificated employee number 53815 from employment. Item D5, anticipated litigation. The board voted to approve an agreement with retired employee regarding an unpaid retirement benefit. Per the agreement, the former employee will receive a lump sum payment of $20,400, which represents the total amount of unpaid retirement benefit. The settlement was unanimously approved on a motion by trustee Gracia and second by trustee Hart. The board voted 6-0. Trustee Water, aye. Trustee Riser, aye. Myself, aye. Trustee Gracia, aye. Trustee Hart, aye. And trustee Gonzalez Morris, aye. Trustee Jankowicz is absent. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, trustee Chu. And now we have the flag salute, and I would like trustee Gracia to lead us in it. Okay, and next is approval of minutes, November 14th, 2024, and student board member. Oh, excuse me, I skipped that. And and I skipped the announcements too. Sorry, folks, it's my last day as president, and I'm a little dizzy. I'm a little excitable. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of mistakes tonight. Okay, just, hang on, we'll be fine. Okay, announcement. This meeting is live streamed and recorded via Zoom and will be archived on the district YouTube channel. For detailed review of any meeting agenda item, the archived video can be referenced on the district's webpage at nvusd.org. The process for public comment can also be found on the district's webpage. Now, approval of agenda, and we have one thing is pulled. It is K5G.
Move to approve as amended.
Second.
Okay, I've got, I've got a motion from trustee Gracia, a second from trustee Hart. Student trustee Braden, all in,
Oh, I abstain.
okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, it's unanimous. And let's see, recognition of visitors and employee organizations. Dr. Musetti, do we have any such visitors?
What about the minutes?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Before you go to that.
E5, approval of minutes, November 14th, 2024, and student board member Graydon abstains.
Yeah.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, so that's a motion from trustee Gracia, a second from trustee Hart. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and it's unanimous. E6, recognition of visitors and employee organizations. Dr. Musetti, do we have any in attendance?
Not this evening, President Water.
Okay, great. And now my favorite part of the agenda is recognition of Students of the Month. Valley Oak High School. Well, let's see, the Principal Cisneros is not here, so yes, thank you. And you are going to present the Students of the Month for Valley Oak in person.
Thank you, Trustee Watt. I got this on the bottom. Thank you, Trustee Gracia.
Introduce yourself.
My name is Brian Marcus. I'm Assistant Principal of Valley Oak High School and Napa Valley Independent Studies. Ms. Cisneros apologizes for not being able to be here tonight. She's unfortunately feeling a little under the weather. So I just wanted to say thank you to the Board of Trustees, Dr. Musetti, for taking the time to acknowledge all of our students for the Napa Valley Unified School District. I do this because I love seeing people grow, and it's not just students or my own kids, but also, and I mentioned this, I think 4 years ago at a summer school graduation, seeing adults grow as well. For example, Dr. Reddy, who used to work summer school when I was administrator there, now she is Dr. Reddy, and she is the assistant superintendent and my boss and many people's bosses. A lot of growth there, and I've mentioned Ms. Water, who is a very outspoken teacher from Napa High School about what is going right and what is going wrong with the Napa Valley Unified School District, and look at her now. So appreciate it. And I also wanted to say, Mr. Gracia, I have always appreciated your service. We are going to start with Ayla Juarez. There's just a few things that teachers have said about her that I'm going to read real quick. She is polite and advocates for herself and as well as her needs. She's taken a step to work on herself. Ayla has shown such dedication to the school and the future of the school year. I have had her in class, and she was always present, interested, and engaged, and made classroom a better place for everyone in the room. She is considering a career as a chef and is motivated about graduating this year, possibly early. Also, Ayla has a fantastic sense of style. She is confident in her color choices of clothes and makeup. She is also supportive of human being, both her boyfriend, Skylar, and her friends. She approaches difficult situations with humor and humility. Ayla came to Valley Oak High School in October of 2023. Again, it's a pleasure to see people grow. In fact, her boyfriend, who is here tonight, I had the pleasure of introducing as the Rotary Student of the Month last month, so now it's her turn. This is Ayla's cum file, and this, I just brought one, but I just wanted to say this is just a compliment of the Napa Valley Unified School District for working with students since they were in kindergarten. I didn't get a chance.
So cute.
But I will. So with no further ado, I just want to introduce the Board Student of the Month, Ayla Juarez.
Hello, my name is Ayla Juarez. Before I begin, I'd like to thank the school board, Dr. Massetti, and the Napa Valley Education Foundation, and my guests for your support in my future. Before Valley Oak, I tried a lot of different schools in our district, New Tech, Napa High, and even independent studies. From issues with other kids to Napa High being so big, the other schools just didn't work out for me and I barely felt noticed, which caused me to fail and feel like nobody cared about my education, which led me to drop out completely from all the high schools in Napa. I didn't have any motivation to do anything school-related and honestly would rather throw everything away than try to be the best version of myself. I wasn't interested in school at all until I heard about Valley Oak. I heard about Valley Oak from previous teachers I've had, my friends, and my mom, who, by the way, is a Valley Oak graduate. Once I heard about Valley Oak, I decided this is my open door, this is my opportunity to turn myself around. At first, I didn't try as much as I knew I could have. It would sometimes not even show up for days at a time, but nobody gave up on me. The teachers here have done nothing but push me to be the best I can be, and I cannot thank them enough. Valley Oak feels like a community, my home away from home. Valley Oak has really changed my life for the better, and now my goal is to go to college for culinary, and I actually feel like I have a future for myself. Again, I can't thank Valley Oak enough for turning me around and putting me back on my feet and noticing my accomplishments. And again, thank you to the school board, Dr. Massetti, and the Napa Valley Education Foundation for having me.
Sorry, forgot to introduce Mr. Stroll. Thank you, Mr. Stroll. The next student of the month is Jason Florenz. He is a student at Valley Oak High School at American Canyon High School. And to introduce him is Joanne Clark, who is the teacher at American Canyon High School, Valley Oak at American Canyon High School, who is a previous Napa County Teacher of the Year. She does an awesome job. And her excitement for her students is what makes her successful. You told me to say a bunch of stuff.
Not like that. Yeah, just introduce me. Okay. Hi, team. Welcome, everybody. My class is here to celebrate Jason. He is just the backbone of our classroom. I've had him for 2 years, and he's going to be an early grad. He is someone who walks in every morning. Class starts at 8:30, but he's there at 8 o'clock. And he just comes in, good morning, Miss Clark, makes his coffee, settles in for the day. And he is the first one to tell me, and I really trust his opinion, like, Jason, I've got this great idea. I think this is going to be so fun. And he's like, oh, no, Miss Clark. Oh, no, just no. And I'm, oh, okay, well, okay then. So I really trust his opinion. And I'm just so proud of him and his family for their support. So here's Jason. I'll let you hear from him. He's so excited to talk to you.
Hello, I'm Jason Florence. I would like to thank my parents for being there for me. I would also like to thank the Napa Valley School Board and the Napa Valley Education Foundation for honoring students. I joined Valley Oak my junior year. Before that, I struggled in school with my grades and attendance. I felt like there was no hope for me to graduate from high school. Valley Oak gave me a second chance. Valley Oak at ACHS motivated me to come to school and have a vision for my future. I have 100% attendance, a 4.0 GPA. I'm on the leadership team, and I'm proud to say I'm learning how to keep track of my money more, and I'm proud to say I'm graduating early. I plan to be going to Solano Community College and enroll in the auto mechanic courses.
Can we do one with everybody? Yeah. Thomas, you are running.
Oh my gosh. Are you ready? Whoa.
And now Napa Valley Independent Studies.
The first student we're going to introduce is Benjamin Green. Unfortunately, he could not be here, unless he is. So I will just read Benjamin Green's appreciation. Over the past 3 and almost a half years of my high school career, I have encountered many changes that have led me to this moment today. Before coming to Independent Studies, I first went to Justin Siena, then Vintage High School. Although I liked elements of both schools, I didn't feel they were a fit for me. I wanted to find my way to have more control over what I do in my day, as well as a way to reduce the daily level of stress. This brought me to Independent Studies. Over the past semester, I've accomplished both of these goals with the help of my parents and my teacher, Ms. Regalia. At the moment, the road after high school is a little bit unknown, as I am not sure if college is in my future or not. However, I am certain that I want to work somewhere in the music industry, executive or creative, as it has been something that has intrigued me since I was in middle school. Lastly, thank you to the school board, as well as the Napa Valley Education Foundation, for recognizing me and granting me this award. I really appreciate it, and I am grateful the work I have put into my education is getting recognized. Thank you, Ben Green.
President Water, I just want to take one moment of personal privilege. I've known Benjamin Green since before he was born. His mother and I were co-teachers together, pregnant at the same time. So I've known him his entire life. And I just want to say, Ben, I love you, and I'm so proud of you. Congratulations.
Our next student of the month for independent studies is Charlie Votinas. This is a statement from his teacher, Ms. Regalia, their teacher. I have had the pleasure of having Charlie in my class last year and again this year. This has given me an opportunity to see why Charlie is exceptional. Having experienced the challenge of moving schools several times, Charlie knew what was needed in the learning community and luckily chose to finish high school. We are truly fortunate to have them. From the moment Charlie joined us, it was clear they were eager to embrace their opportunities and learn with enthusiasm. Whether lending a hand to a peer, tackling a tough assignment, or exploring a new activity, Charlie approaches each moment with positivity and an open mind. Their helpfulness and energy are infectious, making our school a better place for everybody. What truly sets Charlie apart, though, is a big heart and a caring spirit. With natural empathy and kindness that shine in everyday interactions, combined with a determination and purpose, Charlie is perfectly suited for the healthcare field, a career they are passionate about pursuing. I am so proud of all Charlie has accomplished and even more excited to see the incredible things ahead. Congratulations. You absolutely deserve this honor.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to begin by thanking the Board of Education and the Napa Valley Education Foundation for this unexpected and incredible honor. I also would like to thank my teacher, Ms. Garanser, for her constant support and recognition, and my dad, who inspires me to keep moving no matter the challenges I face. I've attended several schools in the Napa Valley, and I've lived here my entire life. And now I've gone from Napa High to New Tech, and now I'm landing at Independent Studies. I've truly found this as a place that I felt comfortable and at home to. This journey hasn't been easy, but the guidance and support from the dedicated staff and teachers at each of these schools have helped me to succeed and continue striving for more. I've also been proud to give back through community service with Petco, Napa Recycling for Coastal Cleanup Day, and Napa Peer Court. These experiences have strengthened my teamwork and leadership skills, which help me to navigate the daily challenges I face. After high school, I plan to pursue nursing. I'll start off with a 2-year community college in Oregon to earn my associate's degree, and then I'll transfer to Sonoma State to complete my bachelor's and master's degree and become a nurse practitioner. I'm incredibly grateful for the friends, teachers, and opportunities that have shaped my education. I hope to continue making everyone who has supported me proud. Thank you for this recognition, and I wish you all a wonderful evening.
Again, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome, Mr. Marcus, and thank you to all the students, and congratulations. All right, now, G, public comment on non-agenda items. Trustee Chu, did we receive any public comment on non-agenda items via email?
No public comments on non-agenda items were submitted via email at publiccomment@nvusd.org before 8 a.m. this morning.
All right, well, let's see, we've got some cards here, but before I open the floor to public comment on non-agenda items, I'd like to explain the rules that govern this area of the meeting. And you all can move up front if you want. The Brown Act open meeting laws under which we're required to operate prohibit board members from discussing items that you might bring up that are not on our current agenda. The reason for this legal restriction is to make sure that anyone who has an opinion on an item knows through the board's posted agenda when we will be discussing it as a board, so they can also be present and provide input on the item. We're very happy to have you here to let us know your concerns, and please know that while we cannot discuss items that are not on the agenda, we are listening to your voices, and we expect and know that our staff will follow up with us on issues raised by our stakeholders. So we do have some cards here for people who want to speak. Deanna Bowers.
Good evening. My name is Deanna Bowers. I was a teacher in the Napa Unified School District for 26 years. I went on leave 4 years ago and to pursue a second career of unpaid secretary, but I have stayed on to help out with softball. I started at Redwood in '98, moved to Napa High in '04, and have been working with softball volunteer basis since then. I wanted to talk about some of the things we've seen, just an overarching history of what we've seen. Vintage opened their high school in 1972. My husband was a Vintage High graduate in 1988. And I'm just going to focus on big game football. When you look at their records from 1972 to 2006, they're pretty comparable. Vintage would win a year, maybe they'd win another year, then Napa would win a year, then Napa would win again, maybe Vintage, Napa. Anyone who showed up to the game, it was a good game. In 2006 through 2016, Napa went on a string, and I used to work adjunct duties at Big Game. And through that 10-year period, there were times we'd show up and Napa would you knew they were going to annihilate Vintage. It was going to be 50-12. It wasn't going to be a game. And anybody who's a true sport person just was heartbroken for both sides. Around 2007, in that period of time, we had enrollment borders, but they weren't being adhered to. People were lying about addresses. People were, there was a private investigator hired to bed check kids, make sure they were in their spots, and it just got really, really ugly. And in 2017, two critical things happened at Napa High. We had a hazing incident, and then we had a mascot societal change over there. Two things happened. All of our kids, teenagers like drama, but not adult drama. So the kids streamed to Vintage, our coaches went to Vintage, and there became, now, as you can see, there's this other imbalance. So despite Napa having more enrolled kids, we did a fundraiser last fall. 270 parents from Vintage, 270 parents from Napa approximately donated. Vintage raised twice the amount Napa did, just with cash donations. There is recruiting going on. It's been going on. There's nothing we can do about it. It was going on when my son was in middle school. It was going on when my daughter. The club teams are recruiting. They always have been. So that's not something we can fix. But I do know that with our softball team, we're going to have enough for a JV team. We have one more body to get, and we should have enough. But we coach those girls to go out and compete, and we know we're overmatched because we don't have the club girls that other schools have. So I think we doubled our win total last year. We went from 4 to 8, which was great, but we also lost 8 seniors. So this year we got a big hill to climb with our girls. And again, I'm a terrible public speaker, but I think if you knew me, you just know I'm here for what's best for the kids, and all kids, the kids down the street and the kids here and the kids in American Canyon. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And I hope I'm reading this correctly. Is this Daria Massey? Danya Massey. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Danya Massey. I'm the parent of a Napa High grad, a sophomore, who's a sophomore at UCLA, a Napa High junior, and an 8th grader who will attend Napa High next year. My children have been active in sports and in the choir program at Napa High, and I've been extremely impressed by the school's culture and by the dedicated teachers and admin at Napa High. I work as a professor at Cal State East Bay in the teacher ed department, and I'm deeply committed to educational equity, which is what I plan to address this evening. I'm speaking tonight as a member of the Napa High Athletic Booster Club. However, my focus extends beyond athletic programs. While others will address those specific concerns, I believe they are merely symptoms of a more fundamental issue that the Napa Valley Unified School District has consistently overlooked: the growing and disparate percentage of socioeconomically disadvantaged students at Napa High relative to Vintage. Declining enrollment, compounded by the district's open enrollment policies, has created profound inequalities in the educational and athletic opportunities for students, especially when examining SED differences of Napa and Vintage. The district must intervene immediately to ensure that every student at Napa and Vintage School receives quality and equitable educational experience. The evidence of growing educational inequity is stark and undeniable. The School Accountability Report Card, SARC, data reveals a dramatic shift in socioeconomically disadvantaged student populations between 2014 and 2023. And I'm not going to go into that data because it's available to everyone, but currently 75% of Napa High School students come from socioeconomically disadvantaged backgrounds, a 34% increase from 2014, compared to approximately 55% of Vintage High School, which is just a 13% increase from 2014. Research underscores the critical nature of this disparity. A Stanford University study warns that socioeconomic inequalities exacerbate academic inequalities, noting that when socioeconomic inequality is higher, academic achievement gaps tend to grow. Conversely, in environments with lower socioeconomic inequality, the academic achievement gap can decrease by over 1/3 of a grade level. Moreover, research from Duke University reveals a troubling pattern. Advantaged parents often follow the opinions of other advantaged parents without critically examining school quality. While parents do value school effectiveness, they place an even greater emphasis on a school's demographic composition. This tendency can inadvertently increase school segregation. I would be more than happy to provide details regarding this research to the district for further review and analysis. The data presents a clear call to action. Immediate intervention is necessary to address these growing educational disparities. Student attendance boundaries must be redrawn, and the current school choice model needs critical reevaluation. While balancing enrollment numbers in school choice may be NVUSD's goals, it's important to consider the unintended academic, financial, and participation inequalities this policy creates.
Thank you. And Maureen Thunison.
Hi, my name is Maureen Tunison, and I represent the Napa High School Marching Band and Instrumental Music Boosters. Our job is to raise over $100,000 to support the marching band, orchestra, jazz band, color guard, and drumline. This award-winning program just took first place in the San Francisco Heritage Parade and has won numerous awards over the years. We have felt the impact of open enrollment acutely in our program. When my oldest son started in 2019, there were 130 band members who played instruments. Now we have 35 band members, with 16 set to graduate this year. Only 5 freshmen signed up this year. The music programs have suffered a massive hit due to the lack of district support of music at the middle school level, particularly at Shearer, Browns Valley, and Unitas, programs that didn't benefit from the middle school redesign. Also, the COVID pandemic didn't help the matters either, as musicians were barred from playing longer than athletes. Ultimately, if this board chooses not to do anything to save these programs, the 110-year-old marching band at Napa High School will collapse next year because we need more than 20 students to make up of the band. The booster board is also struggling to gain any new members, and as a consequence, raising funds that we need for future years has become impossible this year. We have 4 outgoing members and only 2 to replace them. We are in danger of needing to fold the booster club that has existed since 1968. Instrumental music keeps kids in school and engaged in their studies. Students who participate in music, especially instrumental music, tend to score higher on math exams. One study found that students who played an instrument for many years were about 1 academic year ahead of their peers in math, science, and English. I urge you to revisit your failed open enrollment policies, or better yet, merge the 2 high schools now before all these programs disappear. Thank you.
Thank you. And now Esther Colorado.
Hello, my name is Esther Colorado. I'm sorry, I'm a little sick. I have been teaching at Napa High for 22 years, and I have a senior athlete in Napa High and a sophomore athlete as well. I would like to talk to you about the enrollment of athletes in Napa Vantage High School is significantly affecting the ISA program, International Spanish Academies, a program at Napa High. And over the past year, we lost 21 students that should have come from Unidos to Napa High after committing to nearly 8 years of the dual immersion education. They have decided to prioritize sports over completing the ISA program. The shift means that these students will not receive the ISA diploma, which certifies their bilingualism and is highly regarded by colleges and employees. Additionally, they will miss the chance to take the DELE exam, Diploma of Spanish as a Foreign Language, an exam that is a prestigious certification available only through Napa High School, which would serve as a lifelong credential of their Spanish proficiency. Concerningly, families not continuing at Napa High have been wrongly informed that they can complete the dual immersion language program in the other school. However, this is not accurate. They will have the full ISA certification if they continue at Napa High. They will be able to earn their seal of biliteracy at the other school as well. But they will not get the same level of world recognition advantage that the ISA program provides. We know that athletics is a valuable program at all students in high school, but the reality is that some of these students will not achieve, they will not be recruited to play at, collegiate level. But the bilingual diploma, the ISA certificate, the DELE exam opens doors to a wide range of opportunities that can have lasting impacts both on college admissions and career prospects. By choosing sport over completing an ISA program, students are sacrificing an achievement that would serve them for life, impacting their academic and professional futures far beyond the high school years. Just a reminder that Napa Valley Unified School District prides itself on having this program for a long time. The ISA program is one of the only two, Napa High is one of the only two ISA schools in California, and we have amazing AP grades due to this program. So just wanted to let you know. Thank you.
Thank you. And next is Zara, is it Aceras? Aceras, okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Zaira, and I am a parent to 3 multi-sport athletes at Napa High School. You most likely won't remember me after tonight, yet I stand here before you with hopes that you will consider my words far beyond the length of my speech. We are all here because we have one thing in common, that is the well-being of our youth. Yet it seems like the well-being depends on the school that they attend. This was very apparent at Big Game this past year. The difference in the roster spoke for itself, and as a parent of freshman boys, that's a feeling that has not gone away. Napa had to combine the very few freshmen that came out to play this year with JV in order to complete the JV team. The night of Big Game, Vintage had their freshman team dressed down and joined JV, even though their JV had a full team already. They warmed up and stood on the sidelines the entirety of the game, and the difference was astronomical. And to be honest, it felt like a kick in the chest because they knew we had to combine our kids to make one team. Max Preps that night had the JV roster for Vintage at 70, while Napa High read at 40. As a parent on the Napa High side, it wasn't a pretty feeling. As an adult and a parent to multi-sport athletes, I have to speak up and come before you to draw this matter to attention. How is one high school struggling to meet numbers, ticket sales for big games, raffles, yet another school is completely thriving? Where is a disconnect? How many more times do I have to tell my kids and their friends, good game, you tried your best, knowing that their best is not enough? when they are fighting an uphill battle. This is not just a school issue, it's a community issue. My kids played youth football, and it was very apparent that the school that they were trying to get them to go to was Vintage. I stood my ground regardless of their time and good experiences in youth football, that they would be attending their home school, Napa High. Napa is a small community, and we have family and friends in both schools, and hearing comments like, "You're going to Napa, get ready to lose," or "You go to Napa, they suck," are not words I took very lightly. Actions like these are learned. Kids are hearing it, they're passing it on, and they're creating biases at a very young age. Football in a community like ours brings a small town under the Friday night light feeling. Football is supposed to unite our kids and create long-lasting memories. However, I can't help but feel that football in this community is dividing us, and the memories that are being created here in Napa High are not the same memories from the high school down the street. As a parent, what do you say? It's not our athletes' fault that they are beaten down, ridiculed because they don't have the numbers, the fundraising, and the support, yet they sweat, cry, and work just as much as the other athletes in our community. They deserve full teams and thriving programs. You might not remember me, but my kids will remember that I came before you today and spoke up for them, and I asked for you solutions and equality. I hope that they carry this into their life to always stick up for the little guy, and that when somebody is in need, they help them on and off the field. I ask you tonight to look at our athletes on and off the field. My boys will continue to play football alongside their teammates because they love the sport. However, there has to be change. Thank you.
Thank you. Clara Mier.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you. Good to see you all. Haven't seen you in a while. I'm not prepared. I was kind of like talking to some of the ladies back here and kind of came in last minute, so I don't have a script. But we came to a meeting a couple weeks ago with Lisa Miller from the Enrollment Center, and we were talking about the same concern that we all together have. I'm just reiterating what my coworkers just brought up to the table. I think this is something that as a district, we're going to have to look at closely. It's going to become a bigger problem than it is already. I think I did brought it up to Alejandra when I was at Unidos. I brought it up to Ian. Last year, we lost 40 students from the ISA program. That's an entire class that we lost. I think we, as a district, we're so proud of our bilingual program. I think it's something that we want to keep going. And this is becoming a problem because a lot of these students that are coming from the ISA program, most of them are high-achieving athletes. And of course, they want to go to the high-achieving school. So we're going to have to find a way. And I know that we, as a school district, as a board, we do want our students to thrive wherever they decide to go. We want these programs to continue. And I know that we're committed to continue with equity and with our students feeling successful wherever they end up at. And I know we are all committed to that. We just went through a whole year of like rebuilding our system. And I know that we're gonna pay attention to it. So I'm just reiterating the same thing. I think we need to pay attention to this. It's gonna become an issue if we don't do something about it. So I'm just, hoping that we can make sure that we don't overlook this issue. Thank you so much for your attention.
And thank you. Our next speaker, Madeline Chu.
Good evening to Dr. Massetti and the Board of Education. My name is Madeline Chu, and I'm a senior within the district and co-secretary of the Student Climate Coalition, Napa Schools for Climate Action. Earlier this year in April, the board passed a resolution that Napa Schools for Climate Action helped author and introduce. This is Resolution 2421, authorizing the call to climate restoration action, a resolution reiterating the key role our school district plays in ensuring a safe, livable climate for all future generations, achieved not only through emission reduction, but also climate restoration. We are so grateful for the board support, and it truly has been wonderful to work with NVUSD. It's been a little while since we were here, though, so I would like to offer some updates and highlight a couple of things included in the resolution, starting with the end. Now, in the resolution, the board supports the transmission of copies of this resolution to a lengthy list of contacts, which I won't read in full, but includes school boards across California, our California representatives, and even the President of the United States, Secretary of State, and Chair of the Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change. We indeed did manage to send copies of the resolution, plus letters from our team and Board President Water to our entire list of contacts, and we would like to thank Board President Water for supporting these outreach efforts. In fact, one thing that resulted from this resolution with the Napa Unified School District was a congressional resolution with our Congressman Mike Thompson. It was introduced into the House of Representatives in November as House Resolution 1563. But without the board's support, we could not have imagined having a resolution specifically focused on the importance of climate restoration in Congress at this moment. Now, one of the other concluding clauses states that the Board of Education supports the superintendent in maintaining a climate stabilization committee to develop recommendations for actions on climate change, such as enhancing opportunities for climate change literacy. This past fall, Schools for Climate Action has worked tirelessly to follow through with the groundwork laid forth in this resolution, collaborating with NVUSD teachers such as Ms. Hilliard of American Canyon High to develop ways for teachers to weave climate literacy into their lesson plans. However, the Climate Stabilization Committee mentioned in the resolution has yet to convene. Napa Schools for Climate Action would like to offer to help with this committee and work with the committee, especially on matters of climate literacy and education once it is set up. So once again, I'd like to reiterate our gratitude for the board's support, because without it, we would not have been able to accomplish as much as we have in these past 8 months. We look forward to continuing our immensely fruitful partnership with the NVUSD. Thank you for your time, and I wish everyone a lovely evening.
And our next speaker is Sophie. Oh, yes, okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sophie Wasif, and I serve as the co-vice president of Napa Schools for Climate Action. In April of this year, the Napa Schools for Climate Action team put before you our climate restoration resolution. When you chose to pass our resolution, a door of opportunities opened for our organization. Because of your leadership, we were able to continue our work beyond the Napa community. Since April, we have been busy. As Maddie has mentioned, we reached out to our local congressman's office to expand our impact beyond Napa. During this process, we got to work with legislators from Mike Thompson's DC office to make our original NVUSD resolution fit for introduction. This was an invaluable experience that allowed us to get a better understanding of how legislation is created and passed. Part of our organization's mission is to inspire other youth to act. One of our recent efforts to fulfill this goal is the development of our Climate Restoration Toolkit, which has been put together to help other youth organizations develop their own climate restoration resolutions. In designing this toolkit, we hope to give other youth an opportunity to educate themselves and make an impact in their own communities. Our work is just one step towards securing a safe future for our youth. If we want the best future for our generation and generations to come, continued effort, sacrifice, and passion is required. Thank you again for taking our concerns seriously and continuing to support us. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any people online who want to speak during public comments on non-agenda items?
Yes, we do. We have one speaker, Norma Ortiz. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Mrs.
Hello, good
Ortiz.
night. President Waters, board member, student rep. My name is Norma Ortiz. I am a parent and family member of students attending NVUSD, but also a community member. It is important that NVUSD builds relationships of trust, mutual understanding, and belonging with all students and their families, and an effective culture responsive education for students. Create open door policies at the district level without restrictions, which can enhance parent engagement and create spaces for family partnerships, and to provide input, feedback, ideas, and concerns when necessary. In this regard, continue to build on the work legacy that previous superintendents, board members, students, parents, community partners, and interest groups that have contributed to the education of our students. Institutional value systems within the context of diversity, inclusion, belonging, and innovation for all students, free from any form of bullying, harassment, and coercion. The district needs to reassure parents and families that our children are safe at all times and that we all can work collaboratively in making NVUSD a better place, because a lot of work needs to be done. We are all representing our students' voice within our different roles and perspectives. Shield and protect our most vulnerable populations. Experience and diversity in ideas do matter, especially at the executive leadership level. Students, parents, families, including myself, continue to have concerns over the items that have been taking place at Browns Valley Elementary with Mr. Osborne. Based on what has been put to my attention, there's not an effective approach on his end in handling middle school items, especially behaviors. The transition period from Silva's leadership to the current administration has passed, and it is about time to see results that benefit the entire school population. He doesn't listen nor follow up with all students nor their families. Many students are hurting because of such lack of response. Instead of asking students why I go to district board meetings, he should focus on asking those students what he can do as an administrator to better their middle school experience in general and make them feel safe and heard instead of straining relationships with them, because there is a duty of care. It is important that all students' narratives and testimonies be taken into consideration. Listen and learn from our students in terms of how to better address their academic and emotional needs, not only at the school sites, but also at the district level. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's it? Thank you. All right, now to reports. Reports, Board of Education and Student Board Representative.
Hi everyone, it's been a while since we last seen each other. These past couple of months have been very hectic for me. I've had school and I've taken a couple trips in the past couple months. In November, I took a trip to visit my grandfather in Hawaii, and last week, we all just got back from the CSBA conference. I had the absolute time of my life at the CSBA conference, and not only did I learn a lot about my position and ways to serve the students in our district, but I've also created bonds and friendships with the other student board members that reside all throughout California. The first day of the conference was filled with governance material. I learned how to check the health of our district, as well as different ways to get our students involved and hear their voices. That same day, I also had the opportunity to attend a workforce housing mixer with my father, who also attended the CSBA conference as a speaker on behalf of his real estate company, DCG Strategies. Day 2 of the conference, we, the student board members, attended Disney's Leadership Academy and had the opportunity to explore Disneyland with my fellow student board members. Within the time frame we had, we rode 8 different rides, keeping track of time through the Disneyland app, which we can thank Michelle from Oakland Unified School District. While in the park, we also explored Princess Tiana's new restaurant called Tiana's Palace and her ride Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Tiana's Bayou Adventure was the last ride we rode of the night at 9 p.m., and it was a water ride, so we were all a little bit soaked coming back to the hotel. All in all, I had an amazing time, so thank you to Dr. Massetti, Mrs. Morales, the rest of the board members, the district, and CSBA. I had the best time ever, and I cannot say that enough. Upon my arrival back home, Miroslava and I had been brainstorming a couple ways to get a more accurate picture of the student voices within our district. We have reached out to the different high schools in our district to get in contact with their fellow student leaders. Hopefully, we can begin to meet with them soon. Congratulations to American Canyon High School's football team, as they are currently in Long Beach gearing up to compete in the CIF State Championship game this Saturday versus Palmdale High School. Congratulations to our boys, Coach Hudson, and the rest of the coaching staff for these historic wins. Good luck, Wolves, you got this. At school, we are all gearing up for finals week. I've heard many students saying finals week or my final week, which basically kind of means like, well, final week
overtake me, or will I overtake them? So in light of this, I just want to say good luck to all of my fellow students because we got this. Study hard and you will see the fruition of your hard work. Also to my seniors, we're almost there. So congratulations on being nearly done with your first semester of senior year. I also wanted to congratulate all of those who have completed their college applications. Go you! This is a big accomplishment and I'm so very proud of you all. I also wanted to remind the seniors that the FAFSA is now open, so don't wait to fill it out. I also had the opportunity yesterday with the American Canyon High School cheer team to attend the soft opening for Chicken Guy in American Canyon. We did a lot of promotional work and the food was pretty good, so American Canyon, you should stop by and see what they have to offer. At Vintage High School, their food drive for Food for Thought, Angelique, and Adoptive Family are all transpiring. They also had a holiday-themed Spirit Week and have begun prepping for finals as well. Once again, good luck to everyone, and we got this. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Trustee Gonzalez Morris.
Thank you for that update. We did get to see you at the conference for a moment, but now I can see why we didn't see you for the rest of the conference, because you were having a lot of fun at the same time learning about governance and leadership and the importance of networking and getting to know your peers across the state, because the work that we do here isn't just impacting our Napa community, but also a lot of what we do can impact the rest of the state. So pretty amazing that you did all of that with the student board alternate Miroslava. Yes, we haven't seen pretty much almost like a month ago was our last board meeting. So in between that was the Thanksgiving break. So I hope everybody that feels like a month ago, like forever ago, that hopefully that break, a little bit of that rest is still in helping your battery if you needed to recharge it, and there's still some juice left to keep you going until the end of this first semester of the school year. I also walked away always energized from the annual education conference that we get to go to as board members. It's an opportunity for us to confirm, advance, learn more of our skills. Many of us attended the Advanced Governance Skills for Transformational Leadership. I must say, though, something that I shared with Dr. Massetti and some of the board members, I feel like we are advanced learners as school board members because we have done tremendous, it made me reflect about the tremendous amount of work that we have completed as a governance team. So by the time we are going to these conferences and learning, we're kind of confirming that what we've been doing are the best practices, pretty high level. And if anything, we have been pretty proactive and have dedicated a lot of time, not here just at our board meetings, but even additional time, whether it has to do with our own due diligence of doing our trustee duties as we visit campuses and so on. But I'm talking more the specifics of leadership, governance, understanding of the different departments and the work that the staff does. And I think it just, when I find myself around the room with other peers, they're just looking at me going like, can I get your email because I have questions about that. I have questions about this and that. And so I think it's sometimes our community sees us here or when they come for one moment, and that's where the work leaves, but we know it goes beyond that and we know it's extending to so much work of that. So I just appreciate the ability to go to a conference, compare notes, and kind of see where we stand and like what are the areas where we can improve and what are the areas that we can still learn from. So that being said, I did appreciate a lot of the sessions there, one having to do with navigating gender identity issues and education, especially in the climate that we are facing in terms of our LGBTQIA+ community. It was really interesting to understand the California laws and education laws, codes around this. I will have some follow-up questions for Dr. Massetti and our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Dana Page, just in regards to just some of the information that I learned there, that as I was sitting there, I felt like, oh gosh, that feels news to me. So just, again, finding ways for us to continue to, in my role, understand how we taking care and protecting our students when it comes to gender identity. Of course, one of the important sessions is to always show me, it was titled Show Me the Money, and it's really about school finances, and just kind of the big walk away that I took from that was just the critical situation that our state is not only facing or just face in terms of budget deficit, but what is expected in the next 3 years, and it's not great. You can always picture, you could always see these presentations, but it's always the visuals that make it really real, and see that graph that instead of seeing the state revenue go up the horizontal x-axis, it's going below in terms of deficit and just getting worse and worse each year. So what does that say to me as I leave that session means that we continue to keep doing our due diligence, and be ready for those challenges that we are facing, whether it's declining enrollment, how it impacts our programs and students, and just all of the challenges that come with that. However, and I'm pretty sure everybody's going to, say a piece of this. There's always a celebration, and just really exciting to have gone to the conference and know that we had passed the bond, and that is just really, despite all that we are going through, and all the great work that's happening, and the everyday stuff that occurs. This means a lot to all of us, and it's just super exciting to be able to now be able to take care of our facilities as our plan indicates. Right, we can't do it everything. It doesn't pay the entire bill for all of the maintenance and in facilities that need our help. But it's a big, huge help. So I just want to thank the community for trusting us, thanking the community for taking the time to listen, and also an advance thank you, because you will be hopefully following the work along the way, and learning more about how the impact of this bond is doing. I also attended with Trustee Hart, a Latino luncheon, talked about multilingual learners in alignment with math. It was a little underwhelming for me. I wanted to hear more about the impacts of the new administration and the very vocal national attacks and threats to the immigrant community, which a lot of our student and our Napa County community represent. And so that didn't get brought up, but I really wanted to kind of hear more what other districts are doing around that, because it's a really real attack and threat happening, and it could cause a lot of our students and families to sometimes not even want to come to school for the fear of deportation or fear of immigration repercussions around that. So just want to know, I wanted to learn more about that, but again, these are more of the work that we get to do on our own and kind of bring up here at the board with you all. Last night I was super energized as I attended, along with 3 of my peers that will share that, in attending the DLAC, the district wide ELAC committees of our schools for our multilingual learners, and just the energy from that group was was very contagious. I think I had the best night's sleep knowing that there's in that group, this very positive energy of parents who have been facing challenges with the kiddos in regards to being multilingual learners, and myself being one a long time ago, and just seeing how they feel empowered, and the ability for them to be able to know that they have a voice that typically isn't as comfortable for a community to be able to own that space. And to see that empowerment being grown on behalf of a student group that really is critical to our district, and represents a big portion of our demographics. So just really thankful for the district's support in that, because I think that is a marker of a big difference of that group, is that knowing that they have the district support. And I think that's a lot of the message that I'm hoping this next year and the following school years is that parents continue to feel that the district is here to provide support. We have some limitations, some of them are done by law, some of them are done by funds funds, resources, and capacity, but nonetheless, our intention is to do as much as we possibly can. And then with this particular group, it's been great to see how that growth has occurred. Not overnight. It takes time. I mean, it has taken years, but it is really amazing to see how all that hard work has come to fruition, and just really thankful for that, for the parents of our school district, but especially tonight for those parents that have done really tremendous amount of work to represent a student population that means a lot to all of us. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Hart.
All right, good evening. As mentioned, it's been about a month since our last meeting, so I've got a few things here to catch up on. Way back in November, on the 15th, I had an opportunity to meet with Dr. Musetti for our quarterly check-in, which is always beneficial and helps us stay in close contact with what's going on here in the district. On the 19th, I attended the Puebla Vista Parent Faculty Club meeting online, which was great and very informative, and helped keep the parents involved because they're able to do it via Zoom. A lot more parents are able to participate, which is always a benefit. On the 21st, along with many of the other trustees, I was able to help serve lunch. My efforts were at Puebla Vista Elementary, where I was put in charge of the quinoa salad, which I soon discovered children have a natural fear of. And even I did manage to convince my daughter, who is a fifth grader there, and a few other brave compadres there, to try it by telling them it was rice. So, tip for next year. Last week, along with all the other trustees and everyone in this room pretty much, went to the California School Board Association Annual Educational Conference in Anaheim. We spent several days there learning. Many of us attended an entire day on advanced governance. And as mentioned by Trustee Gonzalez-Mares, she and I attended the California Latino School Board Association luncheon and heard several speakers there. On the 10th earlier this week, I was able to visit Snow Elementary, which is the first time I've been out there since they've rebuilt, and it is beautiful. It's nice, gorgeous new campus. I spent the day with an hour with Principal Mountainer. I visited a number of classrooms, including the second grade classroom of a friend of mine that David also knows, Barbara Lynch, and also visited several specialized SPED classrooms. While I was there on campus, I happened to run into Jennifer Can and had a brief conversation with her about assistive technology that we're able to use with some of our nonverbal SPED students. And I was actually able to see some of that in action in those classrooms as well. So it was actually a very pretty cool visit. On the 11th, I attended the Finance Board Advisory Committee meeting, and we'll hear more about that later from Mr. Manguala. And then also last night on the 11th, along with several other trustees, attended the DLAC meeting, which included a celebration of the passing of their Measure B bond, which will allow us to update our schools and provide safe and modern classrooms for all 16,000 of the students in our district, which we are all very happy about. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Hart. And Trustee Gracia.
Yes. On the 22nd of November, I attended the CSBA Transitional Working Group meeting on the closing of the CCBE section and integrating county boards better into the larger CSBA organization. And then on the 2nd, I attended the CSBA Board of Directors meeting. And then on the 3rd and 4th, I attended the CSBA Delegate Assembly meeting. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Trustee Chu.
Good evening. On November 18th, I attended the SELPA Community Advisory Committee meeting, which I'll report on later. And of course, I also joined my fellow trustees at the CSBA Annual Education Conference, where I think the most interesting talks for me were about the CTE programs, the different ways that people are implementing CTE across the state. Some I think are feasible, others will take a lot more money than I think most districts have. So that's always a point of discussion when we think about, what our budget outlook looks like. I also attended the Asian Pacific Islander School Board Member Association breakfast with Trustee Water, where we got to listen to California Assembly Member Al Moritsuchi and Alex Lee about the state of California and how the new administration might impact us and what kind of things that California is kind of planning on doing to make sure that our children are taken care of in the education sector. And it's really nice because Assemblymember Moritsuchi was actually a former board member. So, and he actually is the chair of the Education Committee, I believe so. It's, it's just great to see that we do have a voice at the state level, coming from the perspective of school board members. And of course, in the last month, more than a month, I've been attending a lot of ACHS football games. I think I've lost count. They just keep on coming because they keep on winning. So I just want to say a huge, good luck to the Wolves who are representing us at the Division 5A State Championship over in Long Beach. They will be playing Palmdale High School at 11 a.m. on Saturday. I can't go there because I actually will be at another competition of ACHS, which is an academic decathlon competition at Sac State. So we will be representing on both the sports and the academic side. So I just want to wish good luck to all of our ACHS competition participants. And I have to say one more shout out because my younger son is sharing his birthday with, I guess, the community today because it's his birthday today and I'm here. So I just want to say happy 13th birthday to Xavier, who I hope is enjoying Chicken Guy. Because that also opened today.
Good timing.
Good timing, yes. That concludes my report.
Thank you. And Trustee Reiser.
Thank you so much. Let's see, going back a month, I was able to participate in the really nice tradition that we have now in the district of helping serve the Thanksgiving feast. I did that at Stowe Elementary School with the veteran kitchen chief Lupe and her team. It was really a pleasure and so nice to see not only the amazingly delicious food. That quinoa salad looked amazing to me. I was serving that up too. But to see how gracious the kids were as well. There was one moment where a bunch of what looked like fifth grade boys came back and they just said, "We just want to tell you it was so good." It just warmed my heart, yeah. On December 3rd, we got the final news that our school bond measure B had confirmed passed by 37 votes. So I think that is an amazing cause of celebration that we've already referred to here. It really sent us all off to the CSBA conference in the best possible mood. I did attend the CSBA annual conference along with my peers. Really interesting sessions. I attended a day-long president's workshop in anticipation of vote pending, becoming the next president. It'd be hard to follow Trustee Waters, fill her shoes, but I'll do my best. Really such an amazing opportunity. I'm so grateful to the district for supporting the trustee learning and professional development in this way. It's such a unique opportunity to sort of have exposure to just an incredible array of topics from CTE and career readiness and, all of these issues that we are taking on here in the district. Really interesting preparation about the budget. And, I'm always sort of thrown by being reminded of the reality of school finance and how incredibly unstable it is. So just, getting the latest and knowing that it will change. The keynote speakers were amazing. I think I also attended the legislative action brunch with Trustee Jankowicz and sort of learning about upcoming what sort of things at the state level we might be involved in as trustees. Really, they're trying to lean into, we don't have a PAC with lots of money in which we can influence policy, but we are a collective body of elected officials that have influence. And so really getting more skilled and more focused about how we can support our students and the work of our public school districts by advocating at the state level. I I think the highlight for me in terms of learning was the documentary. I attended a session that screened the documentary by Laura Morton called Anxious Nation. It's available on Amazon. It was made a couple of years ago. The filmmaker and her daughter, who's prominently featured in the film, were present. This is, as we know, a national public health emergency, the mental health and well-being of our youth. So I just offer that as a suggestion for anyone who's interested in this topic. In particular, if you're somebody who has an anxious child, there was just a lot of actionable, helpful information and insights in that film. And then, of course, there was my first time attending a Golden Bell Award ceremony. That was very fun to do as a board. We were honored by the CSBA for our exemplary wellness center program. So that was a really fun thing to do together as a team. So that sort of wraps up my CSBA. When I returned back on the 11th, I had I'm being onboarded as the incoming president, so a planning meeting with the current president, Water, and Dr. Massetti in preparation for this meeting. And also a phone call with our CSBA governance facilitator, Luann Rivera, was part of my week this week. And last night I did, along with my colleagues, attend the DLAC meeting. I want to give a special shout out to the 3 parents who are on the executive board of our DLAC, the president, Cindy Ramirez, vice president Roberto Hernandez, and the secretary, Elba Marquez Ortiz. Their commitment to building and growing this structure of connecting and empowering our English learner parents and to the benefit of our English learners and incorporating other, of course, members of our community in that work. It was very inspiring, very positive. They really helped us with the passage of Measure B as well. So to see them be celebrated and to celebrate them for their participation and empowerment and grassroots activism on behalf of their students and all of our students was just a really joyful experience. Adding my wishes to the ACHS football team. Go Wolves. We're rooting for you for the state championship. And I'm going to end on an upcoming event that I'd like to share with the community. It does impact NVUSD, and our community has been unfortunately tragically struck by gun violence this year. Our NVUSD community students and parents have been among the victims in the homicides that have taken place here in Napa. There have been multiple events of gun violence in American Canyon as well. I have been working with my friend Liz Russell, who right now is in Washington, D.C., because she's the coordinator of the National Vigil for all victims of gun violence that's happening in our nation's capital today and tomorrow. But we have also organized a local vigil to take place here. It's the Napa Valley Community Vigil for all victims of gun violence. The congregation Beth Shalom has graciously agreed to host us. It's an interfaith, non-denominational event to support and come together as a community. We already have almost 80 people responding that they will be attending. So I think that even though it's been sort of a last minute thing that we've been trying to put together, I think that speaks to the need in our community for support and connection around this difficult issue. So it will be next Wednesday, December 18th. I know my colleagues on the board will not be able to attend because unfortunately it's at the exact same time as our adult ed winter graduation. I'm very sorry that I'll be missing that. But for any community members who may be listening, want to attend, the congregation Beth Shalom has a security policy where you have to RSVP ahead of time and be on the guest list. So you can find the link to the Eventbrite link that will get you on that guest list if you're interested in attending. If you go online to the Newtown Alliance Foundation, if you just Google that, you will find a map of all of the vigils that are taking place nationally, and then you will find the one in Napa. If you enter our zip code, that will lead you to the Eventbrite link that will allow you to be on the guest list and attend if you are interested. It takes place from 6:15. The doors open at 6:15. It'll be about an hour, 6:30 to 7:30. And this concludes my report.
Thank you. Thank you, Trustee Reiser. I, too, went to the California School Board Association after a sedate celebration for the bond passing. I went to an advanced governance all-day workshop along with, my colleagues. And actually, I think we felt as if we could have, taught a section of that. And but it was fun sitting at a table with an interesting mixture of fellow superintendents from all over the state. Fellow trustees from all over the state. And then I also went to a workshop put on by Kaiser on stress management, and those are the little stickers I left for you. And it was a lot of fun and role-playing. They had professional actors teaching the workshop. And I went to a couple of finance and the future of education with the new administration. And I went to the AAPI breakfast along with Trustee Chu. And one of the things I enjoy about that is that this is a group that's one for all and all for one. It's not just Asian American Pacific Islanders and their line on ethnic studies. They're interested in everybody, and they're supporting everyone. And they made many comments were made in support of our students, of our immigrant students, Latino immigrant students. So it's really a great group. And our own colleagues, Dr. Musetti and Trustee Jankowicz, were on a panel on effective governance that got rave reviews. I heard just people loved it. And I was really happy that the outgoing CSBA president gave Unidos a shout out, at the opening. This was the kickoff keynote speech, and that made me very proud. And when I came home, I was just in time to hop on my laptop and stream the ACHS Wolves football game. And boy, they've got a kid named Harris who is, kind of unbelievable.
That's my neighbor.
That's your neighbor? Well, tell him that this old lady was just going, how does he do that? And it was amazing. And then the next day, I heard the Napa High School Choir sing at Mike Thompson's holiday event, and then talked to Luann Rivera, our governance coach, on Monday. And then Monday, I also went to the DEI book club, which is run by Hannah Henry, a Shearer School teacher, and this is called An American Genocide, the United States and the California Indian Catastrophe, by Benjamin Madley. It's published by Yale. And, I have a lot of books on the genocide of the natives, including some in California, but this is the first comprehensive one, and it is really fascinating, and some familiar names will appear, and names that, of towns and, law schools and that sort of thing. And then Tuesday, I attended the Napa County Office of Education board meeting. And then yesterday, I had my usual meeting with the superintendent, and I sat with her and listened to a Zoom meeting, sort of a webinar on moving the needle, improving test scores. And yes, reading and writing will help raise test scores, imagine that. And then I attended the Finance Committee, where the news wasn't incredibly dreary. We just have to be cautious. And last night, I attended the DLAC meeting, where everyone was so happy to have contributed to our successful bond passage. And about that, I'd like to thank the three women who headed up the effort, Simone Katz-O'Neill, Lisa Lombardi, and Summer Gilgallen, and so many others. When you win by 37 votes, it means everybody counted. And on election day, I ran into former Mayor Jill Tekel at Browns Valley Market, and we exchanged good wishes, hopes for each other's initiatives. She was working on G, and I said to her, wouldn't it be great if we always worked together and helped each other out and set aside petty disagreements and just work for the betterment of the community? we'd have the best, this would be the best place to live in the entire country. And I think that's one of the reasons 37 did win, because, I mean, don't forget, we had to get 55%. I mean, it wasn't that close. And because a lot of people set aside their differences and said, we need to support our children. And so I want to thank everybody. And that concludes my report. Whoops. Let's see. Board representatives' reports. Special Education Community Advisory Committee.
Yes, we met on November 18th, where we were actually in person at the NCOE offices. And the title of the presentation was Navigating Your Child's IEP, Understanding the IEP Process, Your Role and Your Child's Needs. And the presenters were Kelsey Petitholm, who is the SELPA director, and also the two leaders of the CAC, Darcy Storms and Amy Barberi, and it was very, very informative. I think the big takeaway is work with your IEP team closely and frequently, because you never know if anything needs to be adjusted all the time. I know for sure from firsthand that we have to do that, and that the IEP team is there to help support your child. I know that a lot of American Canyon residents were really interested, but they couldn't get up to Napa, so I did talk to Kelsey, and she's going to try to bring the presentation down to American Canyon sometime next year as well. And that's all we talked about.
Well, thank you. City of American Canyon liaison representatives.
We have not met.
City of Napa liaison representatives.
We have not met.
Town of Yountville liaison representatives.
We have not met.
Okay, thank you. And superintendent.
Great, thank you, President Water and trustees. We must be spending a lot of time together because there's going to be quite a bit of redundancy in my report, but that's okay. So I just want to start my report this evening with a big thank you to Silverado School Principal Ann Belleriga and Redwood Middle School Principal Peter Hartnick for 2 productive visits at both comprehensive middle schools a few weeks ago. Since our last board meeting, it has been a month. It was a pleasure at both sites observing English language development classes as they work hard to improve the English proficiency and academic achievement of multilingual learners at both middle school sites. I also want to congratulate Nosh, like many of the board members identified around the success of our Thanksgiving feast. Our NVUSD food services program spread so much holiday cheer with their deliciously prepared Thanksgiving meal. I had the pleasure of serving the Thanksgiving meal this year with the amazing Napa Valley Language Academy food services team. I was glad I had veterans there because, wow, they work hard, so they were able to train me up quickly. I just want to put a statistic out there that on November 21st, Nosh served a record-breaking 9,444 Thanksgiving meals to students across the district. Since our last board meeting, like many of the trustees identified, we also received the fantastic news that Measure B passed by 37 votes. We are incredibly proud of the effort of so many volunteers to support our schools. Measure B campaign, like President Waters said, was championed by 3 exceptional parent volunteers, Simone Katz-O'Neill, Summer Gilgallen, and Lisa Lombardi. We will be celebrating them and honoring them for their community service and leadership around the Measure B campaign at the January 16th board meeting, so I invite the public to attend. We just want to thank the robust group of additional volunteers, including parents, teachers, and even students who contributed as well. Like some of the trustees said, last night I also had the honor of attending our 2nd District English Language Advisory Committee meeting of the year, where our Spanish-speaking parents of multilingual learners in our district also deeply celebrated the passage of Measure B. We refer to this committee as our DLAC, and many of our DLAC parents served as campaign volunteers as well. They called hundreds of Spanish-speaking voters in support of Measure B. They educated the Spanish-speaking voting population, and this was truly historical to have so many Spanish-speaking parents making voter calls. The president of our DLAC, Cindy Amina's did a great job with Measure A2, but she was there was a couple of them in American Canyon, and we benefited from her leadership and her experience with the Measure A2 campaign in American Canyon, and she trained a large cadre of DLAG parents here for Measure B in Napa and helped lead that despite being an American Canyon parent. She really sees the big picture and the importance of all of us working together in service to all our students. This was a parallel, highly organized volunteer campaign effort to inform the Spanish-speaking voter community here in Napa about the importance of supporting our students through the support of bond measures and understanding the district's efforts to create safe and modern schools for all students in the district. They really understand the importance of closing the facilities equity gap across our campuses. So we are truly grateful for the support of our community. Together, we will continue to provide our students with the best possible education, and now we can do that in more safe and modern facilities. So please stay tuned as we launch the implementation of this bond program this spring. Last week, I also had the opportunity, it was a busy week of travel. I attended the College Board Superintendent Advisory Committee meeting in New York City with about 50 superintendents from across the country. I always appreciate the opportunity to be part of the national dialogue and learning about the evolution of programs like advanced placement and the PSAT and SAT, which align with our efforts focused on college attainment as one path towards career readiness. I want to thank the 6 board members who attended the CSBA Annual Education Conference with me in Anaheim. I appreciate when NVUSD trustees participate in professional development and commit an extraordinary amount of time and energy beyond what I think most people expect or anticipate your roles require, so that you can be informed and effective leaders in service to our students and staff in your role as trustees. So thank you. I did really enjoy being a presenter on 2 panels focused on effective governance, which is a topic that's in high demand. One of them was around keeping the main thing, the research report, which NVUSD is one of the subjects. So thank you to all of you for even participating in that research study. It's been great to take that narrative and research and learning on the road. And I also was grateful, I think Trustee Hart was there with me in the audience. I was a panelist on how to govern with civility and dignity during challenging times and keeping civility in the boardroom. So it was a great opportunity to share about all of our governance protocols. I too got home from Anaheim, and it was great being at the Wolves Den last Saturday with my husband. It was a fantastic experience. Although I know Trustee Chu, Trustee Biederman, and we were really exhausted, but it was so energizing to be there. We're really, really proud of the team, the coaching staff, the ACHS staff, the athletic director, Principal Karen Hatton. I think this is so exciting in her first year as principal. I'll be traveling down to Long Beach early on Saturday morning with my family, and I do want to thank my colleagues of the Long Beach Unified School District. I was able to make contact with them. We attempted coordination of a practice facility for the Wolves, and they did help us with some of the transportation. So we will be using NVUSD buses down there to do some of the transportation. So thank you to my colleagues. Superintendent Jill Baker supported me with that, and for that I'm very grateful. I just want to close out with wishing everyone a happy holiday, and please, I know we need it, enjoy the 3-year winter break, and I look forward to seeing everybody in 20. Did I say 3-year? Yeah. It probably feels like I need a 3-year break. I meant 3-week break. Wow, that was a slip. 3-week break. I keep wanting to say year. It's been a long week. 3-week winter break. And I'll see everybody in 2025. So with that, we'll transition to the assistant soups. We'll start off with Assistant Superintendent Dana Page, who oversees the Human Resources Division.
Thank you. Good evening, President Water, Board of Trustees, Student Board Member Graydon, and Dr. Massetti. As we approach the end of 2024, the HR Department would like to extend our heartfelt holiday wishes to each of you. We hope this season provides you with joy and rejuvenation. We also want to remind you that our Employee Assistance Program is available 24/7 for all staff. You can easily access it through our staff portal on our website under Featured Resources and Wellness Resources for all employees. Our EAP services include support from Optum, Kaiser Permanente, Care Solis, and Mentis. Please remember that you are not alone and help is always available. Looking ahead, we are excited to celebrate our outstanding employees at the annual celebration on January 28th, 2025. We will be honoring over 100 employees across 12 categories, highlighting the incredible efforts of our talented staff. The gala will again take place here in the district office and will be live streamed for those who cannot make it in person. We're especially excited that our nomination and honoring process aligns with our new strategic plan and adult portrait. We can't wait to honor everyone's hard work and dedication in making NVUSD's Vision 2040 a reality. Wishing you a wonderful holiday season filled with peace and happiness, and I will make the recommendation for the calendar committee that we consider a 3-year winter break in the future. So thank you, and this concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Page. All right, next we have Dr. Monica Reddy, Assistant Superintendent of the Instructional Support Services Division.
It's hard to follow a 3-year potential promise. Good evening, President Water, Board of Trustees, Student Board Member Graydon, Superintendent Dr. Massetti, and NVUSD community. I'm pleased to provide the following updates which highlight our continued efforts to support NVUSD staff, students, and families. Last week on December 4th, members of our special education team joined staff from Parents Can for our annual collaboration breakfast. This event, paused since 2020, was a wonderful opportunity to reconnect and build relationships. The breakfast allowed team members, both new and experienced, to deepen their understanding of one another as people and strengthen the partnerships that support our collaborative work on behalf of students and families. As a follow-up, Executive Director Rossetti met with Parents Can staff to clarify enrollment practices. This open dialogue reflects our shared commitment to transparency and effective communication with the families we serve. I'd like to thank Executive Director Rossetti for her leadership and collaboration with community and educational partners that support improved student outcomes. On Wednesday, our Instructional Support Services Division hosted a Letters Huddle, a professional learning session focused on the language essentials for teachers of reading and spelling. Nearly 150 teachers from cohorts 1, 2, and 3 participated in this event, which emphasizes the science of reading and practical strategies to improve literacy outcomes. Cohort 1, having completed their 2-year training, reflected on the impact of letter principles on student achievement and identified additional resources needed to further enhance literacy instruction. Cohort 2, now in their 2nd year, focused on language comprehension and writing, leaving with actionable vocabulary plans for their classrooms. The session provided an invaluable opportunity for educators to share their ideas, collaborate, and strengthen their instructional practices. Teachers expressed a shared commitment to improving literacy outcomes for all students. Additionally, today we held the 2nd of our 4 Letters for Administrators in-person training sessions. Thank you to our Letters trained teachers and administrators, as well as teachers on special assignment, Carly Miller and Tracy Weiss, for their commitment and dedication to this ongoing professional development. Their commitment underscores NVUSD's dedication to early literacy through high-quality literacy instruction across the district. The next Letters Huddle is scheduled for February, where we will continue this important work. This week, the NVUSD Multi-Tiered System of Support, MTSS Advisory Committee, reconvened to continue its critical work in creating clarity and transparency around the MTSS process. MTSS is a framework that provides targeted support to all students through a continuum of evidence-based practices. The committee is composed of district and site administrators, teachers, counselors, special education staff, and our parent engagement coordinator, bringing a range of perspectives to this work. During these meetings, the team will focus on systematizing MTSS across all school sites and address year 1 priorities within a 5-year plan. This collaborative effort emphasizes the importance of building a cohesive and accessible support system for students and staff through continuous improvement. Thank you to Director of Prevention and Intervention, Sarah Knox, and Coordinator of Student Wellness and Support, Roxana Plancarte, for their leadership of MTSS. NVUSD district staff and select principals were invited to join the state superintendent's inaugural convening to move the needle for test scores alongside other districts and county offices of education across the state of California. This state opportunity, the state opportunity supports our focus on creating a culture of student data use to improve progress and performance on key college and career readiness indicators such as CASP, English Language Arts, math, and A to G rates. We had the opportunity to learn from 2 other districts who are showing improvements in English Language Arts and math as measured by the CASP. Leading researchers and colleagues in the field shared about the importance of writing, and staff had the opportunity to reflect on the current progress with improving language and literacy instruction. NVUSD will continue to participate in the state superintendent's cohort to learn about best practices and reflect on our application in order to ensure continuous improvement. Thank you to Principal Ward, Principal Roca, Principal Hartnack, and Principal Hutchinson for their engagement with district staff and the statewide professional learning community. On December 11th, as was shared by many, the District English Learner Advisory Committee, DLAC, convened to continue their essential advocacy work for multilingual learners. During the meeting, parent leaders announced their candidacy for officer positions, reviewed the 2024 CASP English Language Arts and Math scores, and celebrated their roles in championing equitable services for multilingual learners. DLAC continues to be a model of partnership and collaboration in our district. Thank you to DLAC President Cindy Ramirez, Vice President Roberto Hernandez, Secretary Elba Marquez, Executive Director Matt Manning, Parent Engagement Coordinator Viviana Luera, and Fabiola Rodriguez Aguilar, our instructional support staff, for their ongoing partnership and support of our DLAC and ELAC members. I will close my report this evening by congratulating the American Canyon High School football team and wish them luck as they play on Saturday. Thank you to the leadership of Coach Trevor Hudson, Athletic Director Melissa Scheimer, and Principal Hatton. Go Wolves. And that concludes my report.
Thank you.
Okay, and lastly, we have Assistant Superintendent Rob Manguala, who oversees business and operations.
I had planned on foregoing my report, but because I have two presentations later tonight, but I would also like to advocate for a 3-year winter break. This concludes
Never going to live that one down.
This concludes my report.
I'm a little concerned about the amount of learning loss that might be happening after a 3-year break. I'm just saying.
What about the ADA loss?
Yeah, I know. Okie dokie. Let's see. Now we are moving to approval of consent agenda. And I need, this will be a roll call vote. Background information on these items is provided to the board prior to the meeting. A common motion takes action without discussing on roll call vote unless discussion of item or items is requested by a board member or by board members. So I need a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion. I have a motion from Trustee Gracia, a second from Trustee Hart. And before we have the vote, are there any public comments on this?
There are no public comments on this item.
Okay, thank you. Well, then we'll have our roll call vote.
Student Board Member Graydon?
Aye.
Trustee Water?
Aye.
Trustee Reiser?
Aye.
Trustee Shu?
Aye.
Trustee Gracia?
Aye.
Trustee Hart?
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. And now for presentation and discussion items. I guess we could do a break first. Okay, yes. Let's have a 5-minute break. Okay, because I think we've got some real excitement coming up. And we're going to need to, have all our strength, to deal with this. Okay. Okay, 5-minute break.
The agenda item 2.
Okay, we're back.
Introduce the item.
What?
Agenda item introduce.
Excuse me. Okay, now we have J, General Services, recognition of outgoing, he is outgoing. He's outgoing and outgoing board member David T. Gracia for his exemplary dedication and commitment to the students, families, and employees of the Napa Valley Unified School District.
All right, well, good evening to the board, to the NVUSD community. I have the pleasure tonight of kicking off our farewell to Trustee David T. Gracia, who's been representing Area 5 since 2018. Trustee Gracia, you have been deeply dedicated to the idea of effective, student-centered governance since we started our work together back in 2018. I, as the newly appointed superintendent, and you, as one of the 2 newly elected trustees in December of 2018, alongside our current board president, Trustee Cindy Water, we're looking at the district's leadership and governance with fresh eyes and a willingness to do whatever it would take to stabilize the district, avoid insolvency, and start making necessary improvements. During our first meetings together, you were relentless, and I mean relentless, about identifying the need for NVUSD to make improvements across various areas of school district operations, from finance to facilities to technology, definitely all about communication, human resources, and of course, a passion for improvements in teaching and learning, what we do at our core. In fact, you demanded improvement in higher standards and expectations of our students and staff tremendously. You also cared deeply, and I was very moved by how deeply you cared about this, about making sure that our highest poverty schools in the districts had what they needed to advance educational excellence and equity truly for all kids. Although we did not know each other very well back then, I knew as a first-year superintendent that you would be effective in your role because you were willing to be fearless when it came to making difficult, data-driven decisions and diving into the complexities of district-wide improvement. You demonstrated courage, commitment, diligence, and ethics immediately from the moment you assumed the role. Your only challenge was impatience. You wanted things to get better for our students immediately. And as you learned through many conversations about the complexities of leading and governing in a large system of our size, you eventually also learned how to practice more patience while maintaining a sense of urgency for improvements in student achievement. Your dedication to students has never been questioned. The California School Boards Association, where you served as a delegate and then on the board of directors, identifies the characteristics of an effective individual trustee. You embody many of them, so here they are. You keep learning and achievement for all students as the primary focus of your work. You value, support, and advocate for public education. You act with dignity. You keep confidential matters confidential. You participate in professional development and commit the time and the energy beyond what is necessary to be an informed and effective leader and trustee. You understand that authority rests with the board as a whole and not with individuals, and constantly worked on cultivating a sense of team. Thank you for your 6 years of service. Thank you for being a steady, sturdy leader during budget cuts, school closures and consolidation, the pandemic, and 2 cycles of strategic planning and all of the initiatives and annual priorities that were nested in these plans. Your impact and your influence during your tenure will remain a legacy. It has been an absolute pleasure and honor being on this journey with you. We won't miss you. I'm grateful that I had the opportunity and blessing of serving alongside you as part of the NVUSD family. So I want to invite you up here to give you 2 awards. So come on up. Stay on the mic. I want to start out with providing you with the Distinguished Service Award. It says David T. Gracia, presented by the Napa Valley Unified School District in recognition and appreciation for his exemplary dedication and commitment to the students, families, and employees in NVUSD, 6 years of service from 2018 to 2024. Thank you, Trustee Gracia, for all of your hard work. And I know you like it heavy. This is our honorary President's Gavel Award in recognition for serving as NVUSD President in the 22 to 23 school year. So thank you, and your support, your thought partnership, your availability when serving as the president in that very, very challenging year. I'm very, very grateful for all that you offered me as the superintendent and the leadership that you provided our school board during that year. There you go. Congratulations. So you can go back to the dais, I guess, and I think, President Water, I think you take it from here.
Well, I believe we are going to have kind of a spectral vision, a disembodied speaker. Robin Jankowicz, Trustee Jankowicz is unable to attend, so she is appearing through the magic of modern technology.
Trustee Gracia, thank you for your dedicated service to NVUSD and the students we serve. Your commitment and hard work have made a real difference that will be felt beyond the years you have served. You have a strong moral compass and have stayed true to your beliefs. You've elevated your work at NVUSD by becoming a member of the Delegate Assembly and then ascending to the Board of Directors at CSBA. It is clear you believe in the power of education. Your legal eye, attention to detail, and commitment to process and procedure was evident at every board meeting. You took your responsibilities very seriously. It is acknowledged and appreciated. We are grateful for your contributions and the time and energy you devoted to NVUSD. I look forward to your future contributions to our greater community, and I feel like this is just the beginning. Thank you for your service.
Well, that was very nice. Now, who wants to go next? Trustee Hart.
All right. Oh, David. Well, I would say I am the person in this room that's probably known you the longest. So I'm going to lightly roast you, just slight amount, because I can, and this is my last opportunity to do so in a public forum. So first off, the name, David Tiberius Gracia. That's a Star Trek joke for those of you that are not as nerdy as the rest of us.
I get it.
Thank you. Don't think that we haven't seen you eyeing that crystal gavel that was on the other table the whole meeting. I know that you've been aching to get that in your hands this whole time, but you know, now it's yours. It can be on your desk. You can almost bang it anytime you want, just don't break it. I will say that I will miss the fact that I didn't have to give 110% to every bit of fine print in our agendas, because I knew that you would catch any little errors that might come through in a contract or random page 99 of 1,000, document. So I'm going to have to double down on my efforts to make sure that we make sure that that happens. I know we're all going to miss you making every motion for the entire board. I know that that's your favorite thing to do, to be the first one out there. But in all seriousness, although we may not have agreed on everything, your commitment to the students in this district has been undeniable. Your dedication to rigor and an even larger reserve will always ring true in my head, and I will remember those thoughts as we move forward here. So thank you very much for your service. It's been very greatly appreciated.
Well, thank you. Who wants to go next? Trustee Chu.
So David and I met because I got on the board and he was the first trustee to call me up and say, hey, I'd like to have lunch with you. And, and it was in the middle of the pandemic, so we had to kind of make some adjustments on how that can work legally. We did not break any rules on this. But it was just really nice to be welcomed onto the board, because really when you get on the board for the first time, you have no idea what to expect. I know I had spoken to Elba prior to even pulling papers, and it's still, you don't know what to expect. So I really appreciated the welcome, the very, very warm welcome that David had given to me, and really to, foster the relationship, because being on a board, you have to have certain relationships and good working relationships. And so David has always, been the first to say, I think it's a good time for us to have a check-in. And we do that twice a year. And I hope we continue to do that as you journey off to your next adventures, which I know will be awesome, and leave us behind on this board. But thank you very much for actually a lot of the mentorship. Thank you very much for the conversations. I know, politically or, viewpoints wise, we may not agree, but we always have positive and fruitful discussions of what that difference might be. And at the end of the day, all we want is the same thing. We want our children to thrive in our school district. We want our school district to be financially stable, to be able to provide the education that our children need, and to bring rigor. I think you and I are on that same page for sure. So thank you very much for the last 4 years that we served together on the board.
Very nice. Who's next? Trustee Gonzalez Morris.
Yeah, David, I know we had a chance at the conference to say a few words, but just to continue to reflect as I heard Dr. Massetti go over, I think just everything that encompasses what you represent. So I just want to echo that. And just from the moment I got a chance to meet you was, you standing in front of the podium, advocating for something that should have been as simple and basic for one of our elementary schools that your kids attended to. And so, and I think just that level of detail and your voice, I was just also not even a year into the role of trustee, but I always find that just for me from the very get-go fascinating to have community members and have the ability and the right to come to the podium and share their thoughts. But even more impressive from community members is when they step up to the plate and come to do what is one of the hardest jobs that we all, no matter how much you try to find out beforehand, you don't really get to understand or learn until you get to this seat of how complicated and difficult it is. So thank you for being that community member that went from the podium to public comment to the diocese, but even more so that you have done almost, every bullet point of being an effective and strong leader here at the diocese. And I think you also learned a lot from us. Because I think we are at this table a team where we're here to open and be learning from each other. And I think you learned a lot from us as well as we learned from you. But I think having this night be your moment with the gavel and all of that, just to continue to share again how much it means to me to have a reference in terms of a model public servant, because this job is very difficult. And I think you do that with a lot of respect and honor and integrity. And your level of, I think your background of being a lawyer is something that I will miss, because I think there's a different part of that brain that kicks in when you're looking at a document. And so it's a skill, right? It's a skill. And I know we have other ways of doing our due diligence on that sense, but I think it has allowed for your input to always be one of strategy, keeping your eye on what's at the mission with our students in the district, and yeah, we've been through a lot of the list. There's some of those things that I had forgotten. Even being a trustee, going through the process of the change from one governance to another, because you got to experience a bit of that yourself. David, your work that you have done continues. I think you're going to follow our newsletters and all the work that we do, because you'll know and we'll know that you took part of a lot of the good work that is happening. So I hope I think you will take good credit of that. And we respect you. My end, I know a lot of us, but we respect you for that, David. And just thank you for your service and dedication. You will be missed, and appreciate all of that.
Next speaker.
That would be me. I wrote it down so I'd be concise, David. Trustee David T. Gracia. I'm so happy for the chance to speak on the record to our team and our community about my gratitude for your service to our community and your dedication to this NVUSD governance team and to our work. When I reflect on your years as a board member, the words that spring to mind are diligence, service, and care. You're smart and you work hard, and you have been absolutely committed to improving the educational experiences and outcomes for our kids. You've advocated for important improvements during your tenure that have come to fruition, be it the conservative fiscal approach that continues to keep our organization stable and operational, the expanded translation services at school sites to better reach and engage our Spanish-speaking parents, more full-length books in the hands and on the course syllabi, especially for our secondary students, even making sure the pizza that we serve for lunch is as tasty as possible. You've served the NVUSD community honorably and well. As a newly elected trustee, you made me feel welcome to the team, made it clear I could come to you with questions, which made the steep learning curve a bit less daunting. As a colleague, I've appreciated your attention to detail, your professional expertise, your dedication to school governance and advocacy, both here in NVUSD and statewide. We'll miss your resonant voting voice, but not the energetic gaveling, your broad grin and hearty laugh during the occasional moments of levity. Maybe they're not so occasional. We have to laugh in the middle of all this serious work. Most of all, your capacity to keep the main thing the main thing. And by that, of course, I mean the well-being and education of the students of Napa Valley Unified School District. It has been an honor and a privilege to share this enormous responsibility, this role in our community, this boardroom dais, and the title of NVUSD trustee with you. Thank you for your contributions and your service. I have a feeling that you're still going to be keeping an eye on things, so don't be a stranger.
Anyone else?
I'll go.
Okay.
Trustee Gracia, I may not know you that well, but thank you for your service on the board, and I wish you well. I don't know, just thank you.
That's very sweet. I'll thank you too. David was the first board member to reach out to me after it was clear we were going to serve together. No one had run against us, and we went out to lunch. I believe it was in Browns Valley, and I discovered that David is a very meat-centric guy. I don't think he eats anything greener than a potato, and I also realized that while we have many, many differences, we were united on what mattered. We both like kids, we like dogs, and we both believe reading real books is important for academic success and also a happy life. I frequently ran into David and his extremely well-read children at the local bookstore. And the ensuing 6 years have been a cavalcade of surprises, successes, the occasional shock, a lot of fun, or as a friend once said, years and years ago, the marriage of ecstasy and squalor. And there's nothing like taking abuse from the public to unite two disparate personalities. David and I were on the same chain gang. We had to like each other. our survival depended upon it. And in the end, our only substantial disagreement was over David's inexplicable belief that UC Davis is superior to UC Berkeley. And I do not know where he gets this idea.
Go Bears.
And David, I've always enjoyed you, but my admiration for you has bloomed and grown over the last 6 weeks. I have known defeat. After all, I am a Democrat. It is my brand. But I am really very impressed by you. The campaign was utterly outlandish. I mean, the other side, there were so many lies slung at the four of you. I couldn't believe it. And you embodied dignity, honesty. You have set an example I will always remember. So will your children. I think it's the Eagle Scout there, always being truthful. You told the paper you intend to stay involved as an education advocate, and I kind of think you will, whether we want you to or not. I mean, I expect to see you at the mic telling us what it is. And just remember, for the rest of your life, you're entitled to call yourself President Emeritus of the Napa Valley Unified School District Board of Trustees. You have earned it. You don't work too far away from me. I expect you to run over to my house, for a hot lunch once in a while. I'll whip up the old West Virginia hot dog with meat sauce. And I would like to give you a couple of things. One, this is a gift from all of us. You're going to love it. Yes, and this is my old bumper sticker that I created 10 years ago when I retired. I want you to keep it forever. Be a rebel, read a book. It's cheaper than a tattoo. And it really has a pleasure, and you're always welcome to come back here and tell us where we're screwing up, okay? Thank you. You must have something to tell us.
Sure. So I have put together some notes to thank all of you for the time that we have spent together. I tried to keep these comments short, as no one likes a long board meeting. These are small snippets of words, as I cannot express what a privilege it has been to work with each of you. And it turns out it was a bit harder to write some of this than I anticipated. So. To our student board member, it's been nice working with you for just a few short months of this school year. So thank you for bringing your student voice to our proceedings. Trustee Gonzalez-Maris, I was thinking back about how I initially first got onto the board and didn't really realize until I was sort of reflecting on it how we were connected a lot more because I ended up filling your seat, and had you not chosen to move to a new location at just the time that I was very motivated to run for a board seat, I might have not had the opportunity to join the school board. So that was sort of an interesting realization that I came to as I was thinking about my time on the board. I think the thing that I appreciate most, and I'm really glad actually that you were able to get back on the board by filling the seat in your new area. That was very cool because I really appreciate how you have just a really big heart and you bring so much love to the decisions that we make here in the boardroom that you have for our community and all of the students and parents that we have. And it really shows in the thoughts that you talk about and bring to our boardroom, and I appreciate that. Juliana, I was enthusiastic when you decided to run for board, having connected with you as part of the Napa 2030 Club some years past. It was refreshing to have another parent on the board who also had a deep connection to the city of Napa, and I really appreciate the strong grasp of the special education program that you have as a parent. So it's very helpful to hear that perspective and that you always bring that to the discussion. Lisa, you were one of the first trustees to onboard. It was 2 years after I first joined, and I was glad to see that our redistricting efforts had resulted in the ability to have a strong presence from American Canyon. I was a little worried about that because of the way the districts ended up being drawn. There was a slight possibility that we might not have anyone from American Canyon on the board. I think the thing that we bonded most over was our sort of our shared experience, since our children aren't that far apart in age, as they were working their way through the system. And I always appreciate how you bring the parent perspective and the interests of the American Canyon students, teachers, and parents to the meetings. So that's always been great. Eve Reiser, you also joined the board 2 years after I did, at the same time as Lisa. And you both spoke about it, but I really did want to make sure that the two of you had a better onboarding experience than I had experienced myself. And so I did make a point to reach out and invite you to lunch. And it was really refreshing to discover that you were sort of not the person that I had wondered if you might be, because you had been endorsed by an organization that had sued the board. And I was like, oh, I don't know, I guess I'll find out more about this person. And it was really very fun to find out who you really were and what was motivating you to be on the board. I appreciate the fiery passion that you bring to the role, and how you always have the teacher perspective that you're able to bring and share with us. Cindy, you and I joined the board at the same time, and it took me a moment to realize that you were the same one sharing the space with me in the audience during that time before we were actually on the board together, and you were railing against the...
That was what?
It was books. It was usually always about books, yeah. But you and I, we bonded over the need to have books in the classroom, and we've really pushed hard on that during our time here. I also appreciate the times that we did gather and had some food at your house and experienced some of those fine cooked meals that you put together. But I really appreciate how you have such array of life experience that you have a story for literally every occasion. And it's usually quite amusing. So thank you for having so much to share with us on every topic. Let's see. Okay, so Dr. Massetti, I did not pick you as superintendent. In fact, I was a bit surprised to discover that Patrick was stepping down and that you had been hired. Despite the fact that I had no involvement in the team that chose you, I couldn't have been more fortunate in your selection. The previous board gave the district the best gift on their way out by choosing you. I was greatly encouraged when in the first 90 days you completed your listening and learning tour and saw many of the same problems that I did. You have been an amazing superintendent, and I'm grateful for having had the opportunity to work with you. Your communication skills are top-notch, and you have brought that dedication to breaking down communication barriers to the district in a way that levels up the entire organization. I also deeply appreciate your thought partnership on the various topics that have come before the board over the last 6 years, and your willingness to think through problems with me. So thank you.
Well, after that heartfelt presentation, we're going to move to business services and the update.
Oh, we were going to do a group photo with.
Oh, yeah.
Is that okay? Real quick.
Okay.
Chris can go.
Photo book.
I don't want this one to fall apart like it's
Oh, look at that. So cute.
Here we go. Let's power through.
Okay, now that we got all the sentiment out of the way, let's move on to business services and update on existing photovoltaic systems.
I'm not very good at kind words or nice things, but this is really officially my thank you to Trustee Gracia. So that's kind of meant lighthearted. So Trustee Gracia does hold a little bit of the organization's memory. So one of the things he's done a really good job about is when he asks for something, he doesn't allow us to forget. And so he has asked for an analysis of solar. I know that the district is very interested in pursuing additional solar, and we've spoken about that. And I wanted to make sure to be able to deliver for Trustee Gracia before he left the board. This is kind of like the one kind of hanging thing that I haven't been able to deliver on besides having a correct size reserve. So as part of that, I invited Gopal Shankar, who will introduce himself. And so the goal of tonight's presentation, it's not intended to be a super long presentation, something less than 15 minutes. Really what it is to just kind of just ground this complex topic around solar for school districts. And so solar for school districts, it essentially falls into these two buckets: solar you own, solar you don't own. The solar in general is, it's a very challenging industry in terms of what it's done for this school district. It's definitely less expensive than PG&E. So as a rule, like, has it worked out for the school district? I'll just jump to the punchline. It's worked out really well for the district. We have, the rates that we are generating, either the solar that we own or the solar that we're using. It's called a power purchasing agreement, where there's a bundle of a company that maintains it, and we simply agree to purchase energy from the solar. There has been significant savings for the school district, but it is nowhere as easy as PG&E or electricity. So I think that's the biggest challenge for school districts. Solar is very challenging to even find a company that can help us maintain it. We're starting to make, because of the work we did around the RFP for solar, we're starting to make some contacts in the industry where we think that we're going to have a viable solution going forward. Again, this analysis is just about what we have. We also hope to bring something to the school board for our contract to add some additional solar under our NEM 2 applications. And so Gopal will talk a little bit further on that, but the summary is that the financial incentive to pursue solar energy, probably one of the biggest things that helped school district was NEM 2, which allowed us to sell energy back to PG&E at a retail rate, has sunshined, except we did get in some applications. And so what we're trying to do, which hopefully we'll be able to get done on time, given all the other challenges that we have in terms of our main focus is the facilities improvement in response to the school bond. We're also trying to get some solar potentially done by April of next year. So with that, I'll pass it on to Gopal.
Hi, everyone. This is your parting gift from me. So let me just tell you a little bit of who I am first before I dive into this. I'm a renewable energy consultant, Napa-based. My association with the school district started in, I think, 2003-ish. I was on Napa New Tech's board. And because I served on that board, I was encouraged to help the school, with the stuff that I was helping wineries and the private sector with. I got my first nonprofit job, which is with the Gasser Foundation. And because of my work there, I was introduced to the district, and then I started. Do I have a clicker or something? Or,
Next slide, yeah.
Next slide, and boom, look at that.
It's magic.
Okay, anyway, so we can skip this one next, please. Yeah, so My association started with American Canyon High School first. The school hadn't been built. It was being built. We didn't have any usage data, but there's a threshold of 1 megawatt, which is what everyone tries to build under. And I'll go through some of those terms. It may not be as familiar to you as it is to the folks in the solar world. But NEM stands for net metering. There was a law that passed in, I think, the 1990s that said if you produce more electricity than you consume, you could send that back into the grid and you could bank the full retail value of that electricity. And so when you depleted that bank balance at night in the winter months, you were essentially arbitraging, your solar power. So American Canyon, it was sized based on these theoretical consumption numbers to offset 80% of the usage, but 100% of the bill. Right, so that was really valuable with the A6 rate tariff, which has since expired. New Tech wasn't, the campus wasn't big enough to accommodate solar, so even back then it was sized to offset maybe about 50% of the energy. Those systems are now old enough that the inverters aren't working, and we've been struggling for some time trying to find a company, replacement equipment, etc. The second crop of projects I did was the high schools. I mean, I'm calling them high schools, but the array outside here, the Ed Center and the Tech Center included in that. A question I used to get is, why is Napa High's system so much smaller than Vintage? Vintage has just 1 meter that serves the entire campus. Napa has, I think, at a minimum 4. It may be 3 now, with the Tech Center taking 1. And so the Napa High School North meter serves just 1 meter. The Ed Center array offsets this bill partly, and also 2 additional meters, the Napa High School South campus. I think those are the portables maybe, and the adult education meter, right? So those 3. Vintage High School should have offset 100% of its usage, but some of the neighbors didn't like the arrays being where they were, and so it was downsized to accommodate their needs. Then I came in front of the board, I think, after those projects were built, and this is around the time that PG&E had been lobbying very successfully to kill NEM. But the solar industry was, got its act together, and I came in front of the board and I said, I know, you like to own these systems, but there's a looming deadline. I don't know when that deadline is going to hit. So I encourage you to consider a power purchase agreement, and a PPA is where someone else owns the system, they get all the tax benefits, they put the array on your property, and you're just paying them for the electricity that it generates, right? But again, because of the way I wrote the RFP, you own the environmental attributes associated with that. We missed the deadline by 2 months. So the middle school systems were interconnected under NEM 2. NEM 2 is still, you get full retail value for your exports, but for every kilowatt hour you import from the grid, you're docked about 2 cents, so you lose some money. Luckily for me, NEM 2 was not as bad as I thought it was going to be, so it's a great advantage. So those middle school systems, the 4 of them, are owned by, the high school systems and the middle school systems were all installed by SunPower, but the middle school systems were with a power purchase agreement. SunPower sold that agreement to a company called MN8 Energy. So they are now the owner and operator of the system. Next. This is just how the systems were paid for, summarizing the same thing in the first high school systems were paid for with bond money or with Prop 39 funds, and the middle school systems, the district didn't have to come up with any out-of-pocket costs. They just paid with a 15-cent rate. With no escalator for 20 years, so it's a fantastic deal. Oh, actually, can you go back a slide, please? Yeah. So net metering, if you were interconnected under NEM or NEM 2, you get a 20-year grandfathering under those rules. The A6 rate tariff, there's a 10-year grandfathering, so that's expired for American Canyon and New Tech, and it will expire in 2027 for the middle schools. That's, again, an advantage that will get clawed back a little bit by PG&E. Next slide, and the next. So how are these systems doing? I already mentioned the inverters are failing at American Canyon and New Tech, and so you can see the performance pretty, just focus on the last column, pretty low. But we're working right now, or the district is working right now with the local electrician. They're evaluating the systems and seeing if they can replace those massive inverters with smaller string inverters. It'll take a small investment to get them back up and running, but hopefully the production numbers will climb up again. I'm getting to the next slide, but every solar module manufacturer whose equipment is on this property, all of the inverter manufacturers, all of the installers are all bankrupt. I mean, they don't exist anymore. So the most recent bankruptcy was SunPower a couple of months ago. And so their bankruptcy, whoever sent the district a letter saying, we're going to compensate you for any underproduction. And because you had prepaid for 20 years of 97% of a performance guarantee, we'll compensate you for that prepayment also. So they've made the district whole for the high school systems. New Tech had a 10-year performance guarantee, but this was around around COVID, and so the provider, who is still the provider was a company called Roblin Construction. They're still in business. Their subcontractor, their sole subcontractor, went out. But Roblin didn't do any maintenance for a couple of years. Performance degraded quite substantially. So we wrote them a letter saying, hey, you owe the district money. And they paid, we asked for 50, they paid 40. And I advised Rob to take the money and run before they changed their mind. So we're made whole on all of these systems pretty much, right? Except American Canyon. But there was no performance issue back then for those first 10 years. Next slide. Yeah, so I went through this already, I think. Yes, I did, except for the last line, but Rob already said it. The solar has, even though some of these systems are underperforming, they're saving the district a ton of money. Next slide. So it's, again, with these net metered systems, this is a problem that we're just stuck with. And the problem is this: when you attach solar to a meter, you don't know anymore how much your facility is consuming in gross. PG&E bills you on the difference between what your solar is producing and what you're consuming. So if your bills are higher than you expect them to be, you would tell PG&E, hey, why is my bill higher? They'll say, well, your solar isn't producing. Well, if you happen to know if your solar is working or not, then you tell them, they'll say, well, your consumption must have changed. And there's nothing you can do to argue against that, the point they're making, except that for all my projects, I also independently monitor demand, so we can figure out what that, whether it's PG&E misbehaving or us. So I use that to calculate, based on PG&E's bills, I add back in the actual solar production to calculate what your gross usage would have been. And so that's the method that's been used over here, because otherwise it's very painstaking, and I don't have the time, even if I lived many lifetimes, to go back through 10 years of PG&E bills and handwrite what your bills were. So this method is taking, if you look at the first 3 columns, these are the numbers that were used to justify going solar. And you can see, just look at the bottom number in the 3rd column. You were paying 18.36 cents on average back in whether it was 2010, 2014, or 2017. Look at the numbers. Today, it's 43 cents. So all of that is pure PG&E rate increases. Okay. Next slide. Yeah, so this is, again, PG&E's rate increases turned into annual numbers. Just by the way, when I do these feasibility and analyses and so forth, even today, I use 0% as a PG&E escalator, because I don't want to have to justify to a board in the future, you write some high PPA escalator or something to justify the investment in solar. But here, clearly we're vindicated by that decision to go solar, because if you didn't, those are the rates you'd be paying, right? Next slide. So these are the net savings. So again, back to the method that I used, I calculated what your gross energy, your gross bills would have been based on the gross energy consumption. I look at what your bills are with solar, and the difference is the third column in the bottom. So your PG&E bill savings, just using today's numbers, would be about $1.9 million. On an annual basis, correct? Yes, exactly. And because you're paying the PPA provider for the middle school systems, the net savings to the district. So again, just to be clear, what I'm saying here is, if you did not have solar, your bills would be about $1.9 million higher today, right? So it's savings. I think that's it. Yes, that's it. Any questions?
Yeah, if you'd like to open up to questions too, and then I think the other piece to kind of bring up, and then Gopal, I'm gonna make an assumption here, and feel free if you correct me if I'm partially wrong here. So part of this, I think that what we're kind of pursuing is what makes this economical right now is there's still a fair amount of government subsidies for this. And so that's what kind of makes it work. So while that's still around, we're kind of chasing that. So what we're trying to do with the next kind of series of solar projects that we're working on, we're chasing our NEM2 applications with the goal of getting this all done by next April. So not this coming April, but the following April, right? And so in order for this to work and kind of everything make sense, we have to do it under NEM2. Now, this is the idea of kind of pursuing it from an economic standpoint, but then also from a new construction standpoint, it's mandatory, right? So what you'll see at in American Canyon for the new gym project, solar will be put on that roof because we're required to do it because it's a new building. So
New gym, you mean?
sorry, new gym. Sorry, new gym. I said that wrong. Yeah. So new gym. Let me go back. The new gym at Donaldson Way. I think I caught something.
Multi-purpose room.
New multi-purpose room. I'll say it the right way. Multi-purpose room at Donaldson Way. So I think it was a little catchy, Dr. Massetti, the whole 3-year thing. Gopal?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I should make that clear too, right? I said every time we've done this, the benefits seem to, not from the federal government, but certainly from PG&E, they keep dwindling. So there are 17 school sites, elementary schools mostly, also Valley Oak and Unidos. A company called SiteLogic submitted applications to PG&E, which have all been approved before the April 2023 deadline. We're going through the process now there was an RFP released, a company was selected, we're negotiating with not negotiating, we're trying to get the paperwork down for an agreement so that the project can be built by April 2026. If we miss that deadline, then instead of getting full retail for your export, you get 3 or 4 cents. So every kilowatt hour you're importing, you're paying 40 cents or whatever that number is, but your solar production is worth nothing to PG&E. So either the projects, you live with the consequences of that, or you have to add batteries to make the economics improve. So that you're either consuming the electricity as you're producing it, or you're saving it for consumption later in the evening. I mean, later whenever, right? So yeah, the NEM3 thing is really important to avoid. Anything that we start to consider today going forward would have to have solar with batteries.
Any questions?
Sure. So you said that New Tech High School and ACHS have inverter problems. Is it economical to fix the inverters and we'll see significant then savings if we do that?
We're in the process of working on that right now. So I would say yes, if we can get it going. So we're working with Napa Electric. They are looking at putting a different type of array with it. So they're having to kind of cobble together different pieces of equipment. So older equipment you can no longer purchase with newer equipment. So I would say absolutely yes, but we just need to get there a little bit. It does take time and effort.
I just wanted to say make the comment that in addition to it being, clearly financially compelling to still pursue, the timeliness of having our Napa Students for Climate Action co-presidents come to the mic tonight and talk about our commitment to the climate and the Climate Stabilization Committee. I can't help but think that, this is also just fully in line with our values as a district and the commitments that we've made to the community around, a greener district with lowering our carbon emissions. So this is very exciting, and I appreciate having the clarity about a little more clarity because it is very complex. Thank you.
I have so now that we've gotten this report into seeing how it takes kind of years to see more of the depletion maybe happening, is this something that is beneficial for us to know annually, biannually? Like, what would be the updates on how the solar is working in our favor when you start seeing that 1.8 million go down to 100,000, 200,000? Like, is that, or how are we not avoiding that happening, right? And what's the lifespan of our panels, now that you mentioned, right, that these companies are all bankrupt and replacements and all that must be really hard. So what is
I mean, it's hard to say how long the equipment is good for. I know that typically companies overstate that, so they might state it's 25 years, but it's typically much shorter than that, and you can see that they degrade over time, and the industry does go bankrupt. I don't have an answer to that other than we're just doing our best. We're working with experts from the industry like Gopal to help us figure out a plan going forward. We have identified a partner for our new solar who we're working kind of in the background. We hope to bring some stuff to the board in January around that, if not February. And so we've identified BPI as actually a local company that we're looking to build the next portion of our solar across the district. He's working in the background. The contract would actually be with the finance company for a power purchasing agreement. So part of the work in the background is also, once you kind of identify the cost of the overall project, how do you get it funded? Our goal right now, as we look at it, is to pursue another power purchasing agreement with the goal of not having to maintain it and requiring some outside entity to kind of take care of that, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to do that. So Gopal, you want to add anything?
Yeah, so another reason for having, back in 2017, going with the power purchase agreement was back then, as a non-tax-paying entity, you didn't have a choice, right? You couldn't get the benefit that solar is designed for, which is, you get tax credits, et cetera. So what Rob is talking about is right now, I don't know if it's going to change with the new administration, but right now, a nonprofit entity can get, let's say there's a 30% tax credit. So at some point, you will be able to evaluate whether it makes more sense to own the system rather than do a power purchase agreement. But heavily dependent on that decision would be if this local company, BPI, can actually perform like we're hoping that they will. If they can perform as we're hoping they will, then they will have their eyes. It's now asset management, right? So they will have their eyes on this all the time, which is something the district just doesn't have the staff, the time, the expertise to do. That's their business. So if we can convince them that's something that they should do, they'll also be able to solve the other half of the problem, which is solar may be doing what it's supposed to be doing, but if your consumption is changing and so forth, your bills are going up, right? So they'll be able to, simulate what your bill should be and add some insights. So when you make decisions about whether you should replace your HVAC systems with heat pumps, or you're upgrading your lights to LEDs, you'll have real quantifiable or actionable data. You should, right? That's the hope. If that doesn't work, whatever's in my head, I'll download on whoever you hire to take over these things for you.
Yeah, what Gopal mentioned is, in terms of whether with the final decision is a PPA, one of the things to also consider is there's the tax credit, which is part of the Inflation Reduction Act, and so it's approximately 30%. So when that's part of the analysis, we're certainly leaning very heavily into that, but there is this kind of tax credit that's out there that's about 30% that brings brings the cost down. So again, we'll have more information on this in January or February. I think that's it.
Any other comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Saving $1.9 million is very appealing to me.
You like that?
Yeah, I like that.
That's so we can have that reserve that's always more.
Yes.
More. Oh, yeah, we need public comments. Are there any public comments on this?
There is no public comment on this item.
Well, we have a public comment back here,
Not online.
not online.
Hello. It's a little short for me. So I don't have a lot of skin in the game. I don't really care much about the issue, but I had the question for Gopal is, it looked like there was 1.9 million in savings, but what was the initial investment for building all of that stuff? Because I thought that looked like 3 million. Am I wrong about the math on that?
So we typically don't respond to public comment.
Okay.
You just make comment and listen, but I'll have, Rob can go out as a staffer and talk to you in response to your question. Oh, but Rob, we need you for the next presentation. Oh, Gopal, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. And B, presentation on 2024-2025 first interim report.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to update the board and the community about our budget. So this again is our first interim or our first update to our adopted budget for the 24-25 fiscal year. Next slide, please. So economic conditions, revenues right now are running ahead of the overall economy, meaning that the revenues that the state is receiving, they're actually higher than they should be. That's primarily driven right now by high-income earners as a result of the stock market. So the stock market has been hitting new highs over and over again, and we know that in California, our progressive tax system is very dependent on high-income earners cashing in on the sale of stocks, which is the primary driver for our income. So when the stock market is doing well, California revenues are doing well. So I think the biggest thing related to this is even with the stock market rally that we're seeing right now, the expenditures that are happening at the state level really are not sustainable. There's just still too much spending going on at the state level. And then also, there's no guarantee that this will continue, right? So stock market goes up, stock market goes down, stock market goes up, stock market goes down. That's the typical cycle here. Next slide. In terms of the labor market, there has been very little job growth outside of government and healthcare. And so that should be a little scary to people. Why is that? Because overall in the economy, there is not strong job growth outside of these sectors. So there's very limited growth in terms of job growth in the economy, primarily government and the healthcare sector. Consumer spending has also declined and continues to decline. So again, retail numbers are really important as we kind of look at the holiday numbers and so forth, as we kind of watch that. But in terms of overall consumer spending, it's been on the lower side. Next slide. Inflation is probably the biggest drag on the economy right now. While inflation has kind of in the last probably 6 months or so continued to go down, there was a very recent slight uptick, but it's not so much just the direction that it's going, it's the cumulative impact of inflation. So the cumulative impact of inflation since the pandemic exceeds 20%. So the consumer is having a hard time with these. A lot of people are still having a hard time. Wages generally have not kept up with the rate of inflation. Next slide. This slide depicts what's going on at the state level. And so while revenues are slightly above projections, Our budget for the current year is roughly balanced, and next year for 25-26, it's also roughly balanced. However, when you look in the out years, you see these enormous operating deficits. And so what this slide, what's kind of happening in the background right there, it's not that there's this enormous level of expenditures that are happening between 25-26 and 26-27. What's happening is in those out years, the state has spent down their reserve. So the reason that the budget problem, it looks really small in 25-26, is the state is spending down all the reserves. Once the reserves are spent down, you see that enormous gap that exceeds $20 million 3 years in a row. So if something doesn't change, if the state doesn't kind of bring down their overall expenditures, or if revenues don't suddenly just pop at a level that no one anticipates, there will be large-scale cuts in 26-27, and I don't know how much longer the state can protect Prop 98, can protect us, right? So the state has protected Prop 98. School districts did not see large-scale cuts in the current year. Other parts of the state budget did, and so you can only protect Prop 98 for so long before big cuts happen. Next slide. And so ever since the change at the president's level, there have been lots of discussions about, well, what's the impact of federal revenue? So I thought you typically don't talk too much about federal revenues because there's not an enormous impact and we don't have a lot of control over it. But I just kind of wanted to put some numbers and some thoughts and ideas out there based on my conversations with others in the industry. So we receive about $12 million in federal funds. I would say that there's little to no chance that the money will be eliminated. There is no way that we will lose $12 million. It would take an act of Congress for something like that to happen. And so will we hear lots of comments? Will we hear proposals to, for example, get rid of the California Department of Education and other things? But that doesn't mean that they're going to get rid of $12 million worth of revenues at our local district. So we'll just kind of have to watch that closely. Is there potential for changes to Title I, which is the biggest component? Absolutely. There will absolutely be changes proposed. How they land, how they don't land, it could just be a budget impact too. So it's really hard to say. We'll continue to kind of watch that very closely. But again, for a large-scale change, it'll likely take an act of Congress and or the courts to cause something like that to happen. Some of the things we might see is that schools conform to certain policies, conditions in order to receive funds. So that very well could be proposed. Again, the courts would have to decide on some of them depending on how far they go with it. But it's not unusual for school districts to have to conform to certain policies. Like an example of that is a drug-free workplace policy. If we take federal funds, we're required to follow that. One of the other things that's sitting in front of the Supreme Court right now is the legality of E-rate funding. And so school districts do receive E-rate funding. As a reminder, we utilize E-rate funding to pay for our internet access and some of our equipment. There's going to be changes, but again, based on my conversations with our E-rate consultant, we don't anticipate large-scale changes, but it is a very popular program across the nation, but the Supreme Court could rule that parts of it are illegal. We'll have to just wait and see what that looks like. Next slide. So our local budget conditions, next slide. So this slide represents our increase or decrease in our fund balance. We estimate that for our current year, that we will close the year with a balanced budget. We anticipate adding some revenues to our reserve, not a ton, about $365,000 is what we're estimating for the current year. As we stand right now, we do anticipate a deficit for 25-26. However, we'll have to watch that very closely. It is dependent on our overall average daily attendance. Our average daily attendance rates are lower than the historic norms. There's some other things in the background that we need to look at. We'll have a better idea at the governor's January budget workshop and at our second interim, where we'll be much closer and have a better idea about what budget proposals will be for next year. This is primarily, again, driven by declining enrollment and additional expenses. Next slide. So this slide depicts the decline in enrollment. You can see that we've had some very, very significant declining enrollment from 2020-21. We've gone down by about 876 students. But what you also notice in the last couple of years is we do see some stability in enrollment in our district. And so, when you compare the last couple of years, there definitely has been stability happening. Part of that has happened as a result of additional age eligibility for TK students. We've seen some growth there. And as you'll see in the next couple of slides, our enrollment for the current year is actually, while we still have declining enrollment, it is higher than projected. Next slide. This slide actually shows, before I get into the details by the grade levels, this slide compares the differences between American Canyon and Napa. And so we continue to have, the tale of two cities. I've used that description to describe our enrollment. So in Napa, enrollment continues to decline. So if you look at the last 5 years, in the Napa area, enrollment has declined by 1,183 students. In American Canyon, while they've had some growth, it hasn't been tremendous growth. You can say it's been flat to trending upwards. It's increased by 215 students. But again, very much the tale of two cities. That's why we see reductions in Napa, but in American Canyon, we don't. And so we'll continue to see that pattern. I don't anticipate that pattern will change. That will especially be true at the high school level. Next slide. So this slide is intended to just kind of show an overall trend. I know the numbers are small, Trustee Grassi, and you can't read them on there, but it's really, which is why I color coded it. So the intent of this is to show the difference from projection literally by each school and by grade level. And so where you see green, that means that the projection was high, the actual enrollment was higher than projection. Where you see red, you see that it's lower. So you can see most grades did come in higher than projected, which is why in the beginning of the year, we did have to actually hire additional teachers. This is why some of the teachers have mentioned, hey, things feel tighter than anticipated, kind of what's happening. It's because, we had additional students that landed more than typical. So this is definitely atypical, but it's definitely helped us with our budget to see an additional 220 students above projection, which is what helped close the gap in our deficit for next year. Next slide. So layoffs or reductions in force. So while we do not anticipate any large-scale layoffs or reductions in force, there will be some reductions due to declining enrollment, which typically we've handled through attrition. This year, we will have some things that look slightly different. I do want to bring this up to the board. And so at the secondary level, we're starting to kind of rub up against this idea that we have too many of some credentials and not enough of another. And so there will likely need to be some reductions in some credential areas, not large scale. Probably the biggest thing that we have is we've had a big change in the demographics in the district. So if you look at the free and reduced lunch count or unduplicated count in the district, so there's been a change of about 20%. And so since I started as chief business official, this is my 6th year, our unduplicated count was sitting at about 52%. As a district right now, we're sitting at about 77%. So overall, we've had, 67%, I misspoke, 67%. I was thinking of Napa High. So Napa High on the other side, they have had an increase in free and reduced lunch count there. And so Napa High will receive additional funding next year. And so there will officially be a Title I school. But the way it works is the district does not receive additional Title I funding. The federal government uses a different measure. So the amount of Title I funding that we receive overall is the same. We just need to split it up different and shift it. So what does that mean? It means that we're required by law to provide Title I funding for Napa High because they have a free and reduced lunch count above 75%. Our schools that are on the lower end of the spectrum will likely have to eliminate their Title I funding. So we'll be working very closely with instruction to figure out their plan. Ultimately, the decision about which schools or how they want to make the adjustment, that'll be a decision that instruction will make, but we'll work very closely with them to help model it out and kind of figure out where that lands. And so that will definitely, at a minimum, it'll be a shift of some employees, but likely there will still be some reductions because ultimately Napa High has the ability to design their own program. right? We don't have the ability to impose and say, well, we have these employees who are working at this other site. It would be really nice if you would hire them and design a program around them. They design their own individual program. And so there's a little bit of adjustment that needs to happen there. Next slide. So one-time money, so I've had this slide up for quite some time. We do have some employees in one-time money. We've reduced the number of employees in one-time money. We are in I'll just use the term, very good condition compared to other districts. A lot of districts are struggling. And so I did look at a couple districts last night, just kind of wondering where they're at in terms of their budget. The 3 districts that I picked, they either had a negative certification or a qualified certification without using names. A lot of that was due to one-time money. People, if you talk to school services, they'll tell you staffing at school districts is at an all-time high. And it's because of one-time money. We've been very conservative with that. We have enough one-time money for these positions to go through 27, 28. And then at that point, we'll have to make some decisions. Hopefully, we'll find some grants or some other things. We'll have some room in our general operating budget, but we will not have room for all of them. So for now, we're fine, but just kind of putting this out there, this kind of last piece of positions that are sitting in there, business services will work very closely with instruction and Dana and HR. Next slide. So for transitional kindergarten, we still anticipate that the class size will reduce from 24 to 20. So I would say from an operational standpoint, we're not super excited about that. I know teachers will be very happy about that, but that does mean that we'll need to continue to add facilities, or I should just say, make sure that we use existing classrooms really, really well, where maybe a classroom is being used for intervention. We need to convert that to a TK classroom. So we're looking at that. We anticipate right now, we had a meeting about this today, we anticipate that we'll probably have to add between 4 and 5 TK classrooms depending on enrollment between now and next year. Next slide. This slide shows our three-year summary. Our revenues, overall revenues, they're about $220 million. And then notice that they do increase to $224 million in year 2. So when we adopted our budget, there was actually a decrease over the next year, meaning that our declining enrollment was so strong, it completely offset the cost of living adjustment. But because right now our enrollment is more stable, we were able to close that gap right there. So again, we'll continue to watch that. We are meeting our minimum reserve, our board adopted reserve of 10%. And we have committed money for declining enrollment like we have in the past. About in terms of the cost of living adjustment, right now the cost of living adjustment for next year, it's listed, the adopted one in the adopted budget, it's 2.93%. And so school services is anticipated that it will come down to about 2.5%. So we'll continue to watch that. And then we'll just adjust our revenue as a result of that. Next slide. So what our recommendation, we recommend that we approve a positive certification for first interim. Both certificate and classified cuts will need to occur and may slow to match natural attrition rates. While there's no large scale cuts anticipated, we do need to be fiscally conservative and not add new programs. It is just not the time to add new programs. As you read the news over the next couple of weeks, you will read about lots of school districts' budgets that are in dire straits. We plan to attend the governor's January budget workshop and adjust revenues at second interim. Next slide. This slide is about Measure B, and so what I wanted to do also as a part of this, because it does impact things overall, is just briefly speak about Measure B, just so the board and the community understands where we'll be going. And so I think the first thing is just to celebrate and thank the community for all their support and their faith in the school district to execute on Measure B. It will bring in $230 million. It passed by 37 votes. We're very excited about this. But in terms of next step, we will be getting documents from the Napa County Register of Voters, and then we'll bring a resolution to the January 16th board meeting where we officially acknowledge the results and record it in the minutes. And so that's the first action that the board will need to take related to the bond. Once we do that, it triggers the 60-day requirement that requires that I start the process of recruiting for the bond oversight committee, the bond oversight committee. And then I will bring a resolution to sell bonds in March with the goal of actually selling them in late March or April. We're still trying to finalize the numbers, somewhere between $60 and $80 million. Kelly and I will work on the actual numbers over the coming months. And then, the process of planning for summer, it started back in July because we knew we had a lot of work to do this summer regardless. But now we can just execute on that. And so we have hired the architects at previous board meetings. We are interviewing contractors who we will award a lease contract for the work this summer. And we'll be moving full scale very shortly here. And with that, I think that's questions. Next slide.
Any questions?
I'm concerned about the deficit spending in years 2 and 3. I would like to see, as we move toward budget adoption, to eliminate the deficit spending, particularly in year 2, as this is not currently in line with what we know the reserves need to be, which is more. I'm particularly concerned that the governor is not motivated to solve the budget deficit in the 3 years that follow the 25-26 school year, as he will be termed out of office. I strongly urge the district to focus on belt tightening, as the 2026 through 2029 years, based on the slides shown tonight, are likely going to be very rough because there is a spending problem in Sacramento. That is all I have.
Thank you.
Yep. Trustee Gonzalez-Morris.
Just as I had reviewed the slides, and by the way, that slide that I mentioned, that the budget deficit and all that was under that line, that's, forgot to mention that was going to be in Rob's presentation. But as I compare my notes to your presentation and then what I learned at the School Board Association conference, pretty much everything you said aligns with what they were explaining. The other piece that was clearly mentioned was the protection of Prop 98 and how it was brought up that you can count. I think it was like this was the 3rd time that the legislature had taken action on Prop 98. And it's going to require a higher level of advocacy and education for the legislators. There is, they shared us a number in regards to about 70% of the legislators have less than 3-year experience, which means that their learning curve about what Prop 98 has done and the importance of protecting that is going to be more important than ever. I too was at Congress Thompson's event and shared that with newly Senator Gabaldon, and we have Majority Leader Algar Curry. And so I think I just urge us to meet as soon as possible, individually, or kind of discuss some of those strategies there, because it just, the scary part is just how quote unquote easy it may feel for the legislature to just take action without understanding the implications of doing that. Because I also understand with the budget that there's going to be that there is a surplus, but it's all going to go to reserves. And so that one-time money, yes, I think we're not going to see a lot of that for a while, because whatever is maybe surplus is just going to go into the Prop 98 reserves, which I think,
absolutely,
in my opinion, it should stay there as much as possible, seeing how that graph has just critically shown. And in our own budget, in our interim, is showing that kind of exact decline there. I also just wanted to, we don't have to, we won't know now until later what are going to be also the implications of our ADAs, knowing that we need to rely on that very, very much, with the climate that is going to come as soon as the new administration takes on in January. There was a lot of conversation around student fear and parent fear of deportation and really not coming to school. I wonder, just like the legislature voted during the pandemic that you could still get ADA, under certain circumstances. I just don't know, and we'll keep an eye on that, what the legislature will do in regards to, because if the student doesn't come due to these reasons, can we still get funding because of these circumstances? But hard to tell right now. But I know, I point that out because there's going to be other variables that are going to affect these projections. They're not great news, but it's something that folks are discussing. And since we're talking, this is our budget, this is what we know we have control over, but just the health or well-being of our students. When we talk about our programs and if we need to tighten up our budget, it impacts a lot of what we do. And we know that a lot of the programs that are safety net programs of our students are also under threat. One of the programs being, for example, Medi-Cal, which a lot of our students depend on for healthcare and access to mental health services. So that just attaches to the health and wellness of our students. There might be some reduction of benefits because if there's no money coming through, it's going to be very hard because of all the tax cuts coming at the national level, that it's going to harm that. It doesn't quite, it connects here because, again, these are other variables that we might be needing to, that we might be hearing here. We have no control over that, but it does affect our students and the community partners that we work closely with to supplement what we can't do, right, as an organization. Yeah, so that was, and to your point, a lot in the news, right? Santa Rosa is talking about school closures, Oakland as well. San Francisco, yeah, it just again, right, in the Bay Area, all of a sudden, it's in the news again, resurfacing, because I think as they're seeing their budgets and all of that, we have done tremendous work around that a while ago, and we've done a lot of hard work to continue to be, good, make really good fiscal decisions, but it's not looking super great for the future. But I am glad that we get to celebrate the bond one more time, just to finish on a good note here.
No, you're right. I mean, I'm reading the paper, the Press Democrat, they're covering, the surrounding communities, and we did the hard work a few years ago, and we are in better shape than most districts, which, in some cases isn't saying much, but I'm with Trustee Gracia. I think we should be very conservative moving forward. The governor doesn't have a lot of incentive to, balance things out. Right now, he's talking about putting together a war chest, to fight the president's initiatives. And of course, he would like to run for president too. I mean, we're dealing with all people, their ambitions, and we're just going to have to keep, our eyes straight forward and continue to do the best for the students. And thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Anyone else? Yes.
So as a student who really doesn't have much background regarding all of this, one thing that stood out to me was Title I funding. Even though I don't necessarily understand it, the idea of it being eliminated kind of rings alarm bells in my head. So could you explain that just a little bit?
Absolutely, thank you. So Title I funding it comes from the federal government. It's intended to provide supplemental services for Title I students, or you could say for students who qualify for free and reduced lunch. And so when you have a high percentage of students who qualify for free and reduced lunch at a school, school districts provide additional funding via Title I funds and additional services. And so the trigger, again, it's one of those things where we're balancing two worlds. The overall number doesn't change, but the requirement of us to split the money differently changes, based on the percentage of students who qualify for free and reduced lunch. And so because Napa High School now has a 75% free and reduced lunch count based on the current year, next year we're provided to give them their share of the Title I students. As a result of that, they'll be able to provide additional services to students at Napa High.
I would just add, student trustee Graydon, that that's kind of the impact for us at the local level, but in terms of advocacy and leadership, like what's going on in terms of this movement is just the potential threats that have been named sort of in, the rhetoric of campaigns and whatnot is a threat to these historical funds that have been meant to close opportunity gaps and equity gaps for historically underserved student groups and high poverty student groups have been sort of threatened. So like Mr. Manguala said, we think it's unlikely that there'll be these massive losses, in campaigns. There's a lot of rhetoric, but it's something that we're going to have to watch as, potential policy changes emerge over the course of the next few years.
Thank you.
And it's probably a good reason to consider attending Coast to Coast, so you have an opportunity to lobby the Congress back in Washington, D.C., and educate their staff who make policy decisions and recommendations, so that hopefully we will not see drastic cuts.
Sometimes I read about, things like going after the Department of Education, and I think that most of their animus seems to be directed towards higher education. I mean, everyone likes kids, ostensibly anyway, the schools, that serve younger people, but I think that there's a lot of, in the current administration, there's a lot of distrust about higher education, what's going on there. I don't know, I think they're in the crosshairs. Maybe not us. Which isn't great.
I'd just like to close this item, President Water. I just want to thank the business office. I know how much work it is to prepare the interim reports and keep the budget on track and continue to implement the systems that we adopted as part of our fiscal stabilization efforts that started several years ago. And I just don't want to gloss over, I think the board members said it, but the fact that there's so many districts dealing with deficits in the current year because of the way one-time monies were used to mass declining enrollment since the pandemic. I just want to say that I am very grateful that we are not in that situation because it is tough. We know how tough it was because that was the situation the district was in back in 2018, and I'm grateful that we've been such great fiscal stewards even through very difficult times, and that we're not facing that reality like many of our colleague Bay Area districts here in the North Bay, all over the extended Bay Area. That is currently a challenge in many school districts. So thank you for your governance and your leadership and your strong fiscal stewardship, and thanks to the staff that continues to implement the systems that we've adopted to stay that way.
Thank you.
Okay, should I ask for public comment?
Yeah.
Okay, do we have any public comment on this first interim report?
There is no public comment online for this item.
Well, I'm amazed.
Riveting. Okay, action.
Okay, action items is K1, General Services. Adoption of California School Board Association's recommended special policy updates, July 2024.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion from Trustee Gracia, a second from Trustee Hart. Do we have any public comment on this?
There is no public comment on this item.
Okay, student trustee Riley Graydon, sorry.
Aye.
Aye, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, okay, it's unanimous. B, adoption of School Board Association's recommended policy updates, September 2024.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion from trustee Gracia, second from trustee Hart. Do we have any public comments on this?
There are no public comments on this item.
Student trustee Riley Graydon.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, it's unanimous. C, agreement with Qualtrics LLC.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion from trustee Gracia, second from trustee Hart. Are there any public comments on this?
There are no public comments on this item.
Thank you. Student trustee Riley Graydon.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstain, it's unanimous. 2, business services. We will need a roll call vote on these first two. A, Resolution 25-13, Rahi WAN RFP.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion from trustee Gracia, second from trustee Hart. Do we have any public comments on this?
There are no public comments on this item.
Thank you. I need a roll call vote.
Student Board Member Graydon,
Aye.
Trustee Water,
Aye.
Trustee Reiser,
Aye.
Trustee Shu,
Aye.
Trustee Gracia,
Aye.
Trustee Hart,
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. And B, Resolution 25-14, delegating authority to superintendent or designees.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from trustee Gracia, second from trustee Hart. Do we have any public comments?
There is no public comment on this item.
Thank you. We need a roll call vote.
Student Board Member Graydon,
Aye.
Trustee Water,
Aye.
Trustee Reiser,
Aye.
Trustee Shu,
Aye.
Trustee Gracia,
Aye.
Trustee Hart,
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. C, purchase of Chromebooks from Vivacity Incorporated.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion from trustee Gracia, second from trustee Hart. Do we have any public comments on this?
There are no public comments on this item.
Thank you, sir. Student trustee Graydon.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstain, it's unanimous. D, first interim 2024-25.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion from trustee Gracia, second from trustee Hart. Are there any public comments on this?
There are no public comments on this item.
Thank you. Student trustee Riley Graydon.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstain, it's unanimous. 3, facility improvement. A, public hearing and adoption of resolution 25-12 regarding conveyance of sanitary sewer easement to Napa Sanitation District. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's a public hearing, sorry. So let's open the public hearing and ask for public comment.
There are no public comments on this item.
Okay, so close the hearing.
I'll move to approve then.
Thank you. Second? Okay, motion from trustee Gracia, second from trustee Hart. We need a roll call vote.
Student Board Member Graydon,
Aye.
Trustee Water,
Aye.
Trustee Reiser,
Aye.
Trustee Shu,
Aye.
Trustee Gracia,
Aye.
Trustee Hart,
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. B is Resolution 25-15, Silverado Middle School Emergency Roofing Project Futility.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion from trustee Gracia, second from trustee Hart. We need, are there any public comments on this?
There are no public comments on this item.
Well, thank you. Now we need a roll call vote.
Student Board Member Grayden,
Aye.
Trustee Water,
Aye.
Trustee Reiser,
Aye.
Trustee Hugh,
Aye.
Trustee Gracia,
Aye.
Trustee Hart,
Aye.
Trustee Gonzalez Mares.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
President Water, I
Yes.
move that we extend the meeting an hour.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Second.
Okay, well, all in favor?
Aye.
Student trustee? Sorry, you can leave if you want.
We won't need
I think I might have to.
Yeah, okay, you are allowed to eat. Okay. Okay, C, FID 18.3-25, roof core sampling and assessment services for the campus modernization project.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion from trustee Gracia. I have a second from trustee Hart. Do we have any public comments on this?
There are no public comments on this item.
Thank you. Student trustee Riley Graydon.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, it's unanimous. D, FID 18.4-25, contract with Shotery and Associates for topographic survey services.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by trustee Gracia, second by trustee Hart. Are there any public comments on this?
There are no public comments on this item.
Thank you. Student trustee Riley Graydon.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, it is unanimous. Okay, C, FID 19.1-25, contract for leaseback services for American Canyon Middle School and Canyon Oaks Elementary campus modernizations.
Move to approve.
Second.
I've got a motion from trustee Gracia, a second from trustee Hart. Are there any public comments on this?
There are no public comments on this item.
Thank you, sir. Student trustee Riley Graydon.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? It's unanimous. 4, Human Resources. A, San Jose State Student Teaching Agreement.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion from trustee Gracia, a second from trustee Hart. Are there any public comments?
There are no public comments on this item.
Okay, thank you, sir. Student trustee Riley Graydon.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, it is unanimous. 5, Instructional Services. A, Certification of Comprehensive School Safety Plans.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion from trustee Gracia, second from trustee Hart. Are there any public comments on this?
There are no public comments on this item.
Okay, student trustee Riley Graydon.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, it is unanimous. Agreement B, agreement with Napa County Office of Education for the Certified Wellness Coach Employer Grant.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by trustee Gracia, second by trustee Hart. Are there any public comments on this?
There are no public comment on this item.
Thank you. Student trustee Riley Graydon.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, it is unanimous. C, agreement with the Regents of the University of California, Agriculture and Natural Resources.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by trustee Gracia, second by trustee Hart. Are there any public comments on this?
There are no public comments on this item.
Thank you. Student trustee Riley Graydon.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions? Nays? Okay, it is unanimous. D, agreement for transportation cost sharing.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by trustee Gracia, second by trustee Hart. Are there any public comments on this?
There are no public comments on this item.
Thank you. Student trustee Riley Graydon.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, it is unanimous. E, agreement with Billy Donegan and Silverado Middle School.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion from trustee Gracia, second from trustee Hart. Are there any public comments on this?
There are no public comments on this item.
Thank you. Student trustee Riley Graydon.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstain, it is unanimous. F, data sharing agreement with Napa County Library.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion from trustee Gracia, second from trustee Hart. Are there any public comments on this?
There are no public comments on this item.
Thank you, sir. Student trustee Riley Graydon.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
No objections, no abstentions, it's unanimous. H, Napa Valley Adult Education Course of Study Adoption for Introduction to Artificial Intelligence.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion by trustee Gracia, second by trustee Hart. Are there any public comments on this?
There are no public comments on this item.
Thank you. Student trustee Riley Graydon.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
No abstentions, no objections. 6, operational services contract with East Bay.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by trustee Gracia, second by trustee Hart. Are there any public comments online?
There are no public comments on this item.
Thank you, sir. Student trustee Riley Graydon.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, no objections, no abstentions. Okay, informational, general services, curriculum, and student support committee.
They didn't meet. They didn't meet.
Did not meet, okay, right. Facilities and technology committee. Did not meet. Oh, they did, okay. Is there a report attached? Oh, it's not on this. Okay. And the finance committee met yesterday, and
We asked for public comment on the facility.
oh, okay. Do we have any public comments on Facility and Technology Committee report?
There are no public comments on this item.
Okay, and, well, the Finance Committee, you just saw what we saw yesterday. And D, Policy Committee. Okay, and 2, Business Services. A, warrant register for accounts payable checks issued by NVUSD. Any comments on that? Public comments?
There are no public comments on this item.
And B, renewal agreement for Stonebridge School. Are there public comments?
There are no public comments on this item.
And C, enrollment report. Any public comments on this?
There are no public comments on this item.
M, additional suggestions and comments from board members and superintendent. Yes.
Not so much a future agenda item, but I know it probably will be. I think just would like to continue to hear from the staff. As I shared more via email, I didn't forward to anybody else because of the Brown Act and all that, but just a lot of what the Napa County community is organizing in terms of in preparedness and response to the activities and kind of the threats that I mentioned to the immigrant community, LGBTQI+, and in regards to just what are some of those, again, a lot of it is just anticipating, but there's some real language out there in regards to threats, and how is NVUSD just partnering with the other entities. There's going to be not a proclamation, but it's an administrative item that the Napa County is putting together for their Board of Supervisors December 17th meeting. There will be some public comment that will request like an ad hoc committee that will include Board of Supervisors and community leaders, just to understand what is the county doing in response to these changes. I've been in rooms with community advocates that have a layer of questions for us as well that will come to us, and just what can be our ability in terms of ed code, and just us being as prepared as possible to respond to those as proactively as we can get. So.
Yeah, I can respond to that a little bit right now. So yeah, thank you for forwarding what's happening community-wide here in Napa Valley. I this week have participated in a couple of superintendent groups around kind of just systematizing district to district some of the responses. For many of us, it's a repeat of what happened in 2017. So the only distinction between 2017 and now is that we actually have the experience and we're not reacting, but we can be as proactive as, kind of what you're describing in the community-wide spaces. So I've participated in a couple of those this week. I just started curating what this district did because I wasn't here in 2017, so I just curated. I connected today with our parent engagement office, asked for the material from 2017. There was not a resolution passed here in NVUSD. Many school districts back in 2017 passed a resolution. There was a proclamation, but not a resolution nor any administrative regulation and/or policy changes back in 2017. I will be talking to the board president as soon as I get my thoughts together after some of the collaboration that I did this week. I'll be talking to future President Reiser. I will recommend a resolution here, given our demographic and population. I'd like to advance that as early as January 16th, even though we don't have a policy meeting until February 6th. I'm going to ask that we accelerate that and not wait for the policy meeting because I think it's important to get done in January. And then I'll be curating some resources, modifying what was used in 2017, combined with some of the things that are being shared statewide. And then we'll get a work plan in place to activate our parent liaisons, who will be very instrumental, make sure the principals and staff understand the policies, and then do a parent education cycle. These were all common practices back in 2017. I was talking to Dr. Reddy today around, she was describing what she did as a principal, but she was unsure on what was standardized and systematized and expected across schools. In my previous district back in 2017, it was a non-negotiable, like all schools will execute on X, Y, and Z. Here are the things we're going to do centrally and sponsor centrally. So we will prepare to do all that upon return from the winter break, and I'll start working with future President Reiser on that. And then any cross-community collaboration efforts, like what you forwarded me, we'll bring to the board for support and action, and then any space that you need us in to be able to communicate, because we know that the schools are critical in terms of the safe haven concept. There's nothing safer than the school in this kind of a context and environment. So I look forward to continuing the dialogue with you, but it's work. And then next Wednesday, I'm actually going to be a panelist. Our legal firm, GSH, will be doing a panel. They currently have over 300 participants, school board members, district administrators, community-based organizations on just the rights of students. And so they have a superintendent on the panel, and they have a community college chancellor. And so there's a community college chancellor, and I'm going to be the K-12 superintendent. So that's being sponsored by the California Association of Bilingual Education as well. So
that's good.
We'll get very activated.
Great. And any future agenda items?
I think I just called one out.
Yeah, that one, but anyone else?
Yeah.
Okay, well, now we are at O, adjournment, and let's have the President Emeritus Gracia make the motion.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Trustee Gracia, second by Trustee Hart. All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.